Welcome to the end of 2020. The coronavirus. We've dealt with it all year. Now that it's December, we're wrapping it up. We're sending it away.
It'll be over after this.
But we need to look back this year. We need to look back at games and movies and TV shows that we played this year. We have some other stuff to talk about, but welcome and thank you for joining us on the DweeBros podcast. I am your host, Zach, joined by 2020 Travis.
You could almost say our end of year podcast is the vaccine.
Yeah, that's what you got for clicking the subscribe button.
For cucking the subscribe button. Is he clicking?
It's like clicking.
We're officially good of
Or
COVID.
cuck
We
the
don't have to worry about it anymore.
subscribe button. I don't care. And we
Oh
have
my
2020
gosh.
Jacob.
What's going on? 2020 Jacob's different about a lot of things.
Yeah. I feel like I aged 2 years in 1 year. Really.
Stress can do that to a person.
I was thinking about this because just this year, how long it's gone on, it's been a whole year. 1 divided by 80. If you're a lucky man and you live to be 80,
Yeah.
that's 1.5% of your life.
Yeah.
So if you are not lucky and you don't live to 80, this year was 2% of your life was
Yeah.
in your house.
That's some insight right
Yeah.
So
Yeah, all inside the house. So, hope you guys enjoyed it. But I want
hey, you know what though?
Hey, speaking
we're doing
about-
we're doing our game of the year stuff on this episode. I've never been more prepared, I would say, for a game of the year episode.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that statement.
Normally I'm struggling with like what's my number 3. I played 5 games and I only really loved 2. Like this year it was really hard.
All we could really do is consume media this year, so we have to be coming, guns blazing.
There's no reason we're not prepared
So
at all.
We were talking about being stuck in the houses. I want to talk about somebody's house, and I want to talk about... I've talked about it on the podcast before, but I revisited it, and I encourage... we're the DweeBros. Please go subscribe. But I want you to check out another YouTube channel. I want to tell you guys about this. It's called The Last Gamer. And I mentioned him on the podcast before. He's the guy that converted an entire, like a 5-bedroom house or whatever, into a gaming... Every room is gaming library. Like, the kitchen has games in it. This has games. It's just for his games. He just stores his games in a house.
Okay, I haven't seen this. I'll have to check it out.
And I mentioned it before because... my jaw hit the floor because he was like, and this is the final part of the... He's like Australian or whatever. Final part of the video. My childhood arcade recreated in the house. And it goes... and there's like strobe lights and it looks like you're in an arcade. It's unbelievable. So I revisited because this guy has like the world record of all these... like, it's crazy, his collection. And I just wanted to see it again because it was just unbelievable. But you guys have to check this out because in making this house... he has had so much trouble. He's repainted the thing like 80 times. Every video is almost like why do this? Like it looks so cool, but the pains and trouble to make a gaming house.
Well, I'm sure it's amazing.
It's incredible. At one point he's like,
is it themed? Is each room like a theme? Like
each place is themed. So there's like, here's the Sega Saturn wall, and here's where I keep all my collector's editions of games and stuff. It's jaw-dropping. I really encourage you to see it. But he's made these videos that are like each 20 minutes long that explain how he made this gaming house. Every episode is, I called the contractors to fix the roof as it was leaking in and it was going to destroy the whole house. They didn't come, so I had to fix it myself. And he's up there fixing this house himself. It turns into a nightmare. You got to check it out because the more you get deeper into it, the more you're laughing, the more you're amazed that he's doing this. But
I'll have to look it up. Something weird must happen. So, like, I think you hit a certain age and you go one of 2 directions. You're either like me, or you're either like him, where you reach a certain age and you're like, I want to start to gather all these things that I love and physically have them, or you hit the other way, which is where I'm going, which is, hey, I am trying to get rid of all the physical stuff. Like, I'm trying to get rid of all my physical games. I'm trying to get rid of... in my mind, I'm like, I have all these consoles in the other room. I may parse some of those down because I can emulate almost anything. Yeah. I'm thinking about selling off all my physical games so I can emulate almost all the PS2 stuff. Like, there's something weird where some people go one way and the other people go the other way. And I'm totally the opposite. But I'd like to check that out because it's cool somebody's doing that.
Yeah, you
but
can live almost like vicariously.
vicariously save yourself a lot of money and trouble.
And
Watch that guy's video, and then you don't have to do it because you know
and
someone's doing it.
a little spoiler: the most recent video, someone reached out to him and said, "I will buy your collection." He was like, and I'm not just talking a part of the collection. He's talking every single thing, and it's like mind-boggling. You have to watch the video. It is like libraries, and it looks like a giant library.
It's a museum, basically.
And yeah, and he was like, I've created a museum for myself. And that's what the guy kind of wants. He was like, he's wanting to open up his own game museum.
Huh.
And this guy's collection is so massive, it's a museum. So he said, and I don't know what I'm going to do yet. So he might actually go in the direction you were saying. He's like an older guy. He's like in his probably like late 40s and his 50s or whatever.
I wonder how much he would get.
So that's what he said. He's like, I do know a number. He threw out a number. It's a number that... it's a big number. He's like, I don't want to say, but he was like, it's enough to where I can retire on and not have to worry. Like, it would take care of my children and whatever and stuff. And he was like, and it's interesting. He's thinking about that because his collection, his YouTube channel is ginormous. But it's like, man, like maybe when you get to that point,
build
like
some
you were
things,
saying.
sell it. I will say, and my wife and I, we went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year, and we had a lot of fun. I only went one other time when I was younger.
Yeah.
But I found myself asking as I was walking through it, I was like, why is this in Cleveland, Ohio? Like, why is this here? Because they even had like a little section where it's like, here's how Cleveland rock culture is. And I was like, I've never heard of any of this stuff. And I just couldn't figure it out. I was like, why is this in Cleveland? And then there was a plaque where basically what they said was the city of Cleveland wanted to have more attractions. They wanted to have something people would travel from out of town for. And so when they heard someone was starting it, they offered just a gigantic check of, hey, come here, come do it here. And I was just thinking, as you were talking about this, I don't think that as far, probably in Japan there's something, but in America, I don't think there's like this is the Hall of Fame of video games or like the museum, video game museum. Somebody should definitely somebody should think about starting that. Like Texas. Not like a guy that's a hobbyist, but like an actual city should put up a bunch of money because they would attract people from all over the world.
Oh, 100%.
There's actually I think it's free to go to, but No Clip did a documentary on it because it got shut down because of COVID, and they're kind of like waiting things out. But it's in Texas, I want to say. But they have everything boxed up. But there's giant games, and they had stuff donated to them as well, like really rare pieces of gaming, like history.
Yeah,
stuff.
I
forgot the name of it. I wish I knew. I might put it right here.
Some city somewhere that maybe is like middling should be like, let's go put our stake in the ground on this because, you could have something really lucrative in 50 years or something like that.
Yeah. But Last Gamer, check that out. That was it's unbelievable. So we want to save the game stuff, like our favorite stuff of the year, but I wanted to get out of the way some newer stuff, some other stuff going on TV movies that came out I want to talk about real quick. I want to give a shout out to Attack on Titan is finishing up for the series finale, season 4. I want to give another nod to this. If you have not seen it, I think it might end up being my third favorite anime of all time. There's just shocking parts of the story in this. It is so cool. Even I watched a recap thing before going into this, and I was like, gosh, I was getting goosebumps watching these scenes again and stuff. And I was like, wow, this is a
Are they series. Revealing who's sending the Titans and all this stuff?
They get deeper. That's been the fun part. Is they almost what's not to the
they're very mysterious from what I watch.
It's not to the length of Game of Thrones where it takes seasons and years to get to stuff, but it is long in anime terms to where when they finally started to reveal stuff about these Titans, it's jaw dropping because they kept it so close to the chest. It's
how many episodes is each season? Is it 20 or is it 10?
I want to say 13. If that.
Oh, that's pretty easy to catch up.
Yeah, and they're I think there's 13 remaining for the season stuff. Well, actually they're on episode 4. So I'm really enjoying it. I'm really loving this season a lot too. It's just they're really starting to show some stuff. So shouts out to Attack on Titan. Very freaking good. I'm about to tell you about a movie that you won't refuse to hear about. And that's The Godfather. Me and my wife went through all the Godfathers to get ready for the
We're planning on rewatching them. I want to watch this Coda. I want to watch this new one.
I've never seen a Godfather, ever.
They are classics. They're masterpiece movies. So me and my wife went through. I don't know if she'd seen them once before. I can't remember, but she had never seen 3. we watched the first two, and I told her about the third one. I was like, yeah, it's kind of different. It's kind of this thing. And she was like, okay. And we just never watched it. So we watched through all 3 films to prepare for the recut. So it was announced that Coppola was going to recut the third film. So Jacob, I don't know if you've heard about this, but the third film was very controversial. And people
it came out way later.
It
like
came
the
out
first
in the 90s.
one,
It came out in 90.
yeah, the first one was late 70s, wasn't it?
Yeah, the first
and then
one
the second one was 80s.
First one was
came out in the 80s.
No, first one was 72. The next one was 74, 76
oh, okay.
something. So they were both in the 70s. But
third one came out like way later.
Third one came out in 1990, and it was so what his vision for it wasn't even going to be called Godfather. It was going to be called The Life of Michael Corleone, one of the main characters or the main character in the film. So the studio was like, no, it's got to be called Godfather, and they made all these cuts, and they were like, it has to be this way, and it just stuff got mixed up, and it didn't kind of come up.
It's a different scope.
Yeah.
I feel like because I watched the first and second one a couple of years ago, and they're big crime drama family epics, and then I watched the third one. I watched about half of it and fell asleep, and I was like, that makes sense. It just didn't feel like a Godfather movie. It felt like
it wasn't supposed to be.
It felt like if you make an indie movie with like the main character from The Godfather, and it's like he's old and he's like dealing with the Catholic Church. And
yes,
it's,
it's supposed to be. It was supposed to be its own thing and not be connected to The Godfather. To set the expectations, the expectation was not there. It was set as The Godfather. People were like had this one expectation. It was a new Godfather film, and I think that's why it got dunked on. I really do, because rewatching the original cut, I was like, yeah, it's been like 10 years since I've seen it. I was like, this is a great film. Like, this is still, I like The Godfather 3 a lot with that mindset. If you go in the mindset that this is a new Godfather and they're doing all the same stuff, might be a little bummed. It's this older guy, like, dealing with life stuff and his decisions and stuff that he made in the past films.
Well, and there's some, like, questionable acting performances.
Yes, the Coppola's daughter is
the director.
The director. She comes in there and does a wet blanket of a job. Does not act well. So that brings me to the coda. It's called the Death of Michael Corleone, the coda or whatever. But it only changes a little bit.
It's a remake of the third one, right?
It recuts.
Or it's stuff. Like a recut of.
It's got a new ending and a new beginning. And what they did is they moved stuff around to where, because we were fresh off the original, it's like, okay, let's see what they change. I'm glad we did that. It's not, they don't really change that much. They take out the beginning of the third one, which was kind of a recap. All it was a recap of the second one, and it kind of dragged the film. There was no reason for it. And then
they basically reframed the story.
Yeah, and the ending is kind of just, it's kind of a weird hard cut and stuff. And this cuts it in a way, and then they cut out some middle scenes that they didn't need. And all they did was one major thing they did was move one scene that was kind of like 30 minutes in to the beginning of the film. Totally sets a new pace for the whole film because instantly it's a way better cut of the film. Again, it is like, it's literally just a minor change. It wasn't as big as I thought it was going to be, but it helps the film. But
isn't it crazy how you can just literally take something and instead of it being third of the way in, you bring it to it's the first thing you see. And like you're saying, it can totally change
It totally
the
sets you up.
thing.
Oh, I know what this film's about to be. And without having that, you have this weird. Looking back at that original cut, you're like, I got thrown into something I don't care about.
It's like the original cut of Star Wars started with Luke walking around in the desert, and then he's arguing with some guy. You can find it on YouTube. He's arguing with some guy, and then this girl won't talk to him. And then he looks up with a telescope up at space, and he sees some ships, and they're like, what's going on up there? He's like, I don't know. And then it cuts to what we all know the beginning of Star Wars is, which is the droids on the ship and Princess Leia getting questioned by Darth Vader. And the original cut of Star Wars, people, like, they said it was unwatchable. Like Spielberg, Francis Ford Coppola, they were friends with George Lucas, and they went and they watched it, and they told him, you can't put this in theaters. This is really bad. Nobody knows what's happening. Nobody likes what's happening. Yeah. And they literally took what they had, and they recut the whole thing, and now it's Star Wars. Like, I'm not saying The Godfather 3 is Star Wars now, but film editing is just such a precious thing. It can make or break something.
It made me really think a lot of stuff about editing, and it's like, wow. Pretty crazy.
You can totally change everything. That's cool. That's
like
really
that.
Cool.
So, and then I also watched Total Recall.
Wait. Before you move on, are you a Godfather 1 or Godfather 2 guy?
I'm a Godfather 2 guy. And rewatching it, hey, I think Godfather 1 is a 10 out of 10, and I don't really have any problems with it. I lean towards 2 because 2 does some cool flashback stuff.
Yeah.
And I love that, like, seeing the beginning of this, like, legend, this god-like figure in the Godfather universe, seeing that, you know, juxtaposed with, like, this...
I only watched them once, but I loved the Godfather 1, and then the second one
Yeah,
I
the
thought...
one's a perfect film, and 2 is as well, but I just prefer 2 because of what it does. Is really... I love that kind of stuff that they do in the second one.
I've never seen them.
You should check them out. They are all-time classics. Total Recall, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger.
That movie's crazy.
Man,
is that the one with the girl with 3 boobs?
Yes.
Hey, did you watch the new one or the old one?
Just the old one.
I never watched. My grandma showed me that movie when I was a kid.
The new one was wild. I remember being in theaters and watching it. I'm like, that girl has 3 boobs.
I kind of want to check out the new one.
I went over and visited my grandma, and she put some... She had all these VHS tapes. I was like 8 or 9, and she's like, what do you want to watch? Because I would go over to her house on the weekend, and I'd sit in the basement and watch movies, and I picked Braveheart and Total Recall, and she was an artist, so she went in the other room and was like working on some paintings, and I literally just sat in my grandma's basement and watched Braveheart, which was a very violent movie, and then Total Recall, which was violent and had a 3-boob woman, and that was a weekend.
It also has... I've always seen... The only thing I know about this film was the GIFs that you see online of people's eyes bulging out. It's all practical effects. And this film does it, spoiler alert, twice. They loved it so much they did it twice. And it's when they escaped, like, space. Like, something happens with the windows blow out or whatever in that atmosphere. And it is nuts. It is so disturbing.
That's the movie that scarred me and made me scared of space for a while. Yeah. Because when people get trapped in space in that movie, it's, like, brutal.
Terrifying. But the practical effects are incredible for its time. There's some crazy CGI they do as well for, I think it was 1990. So, hey, same year as Godfather. They were just 2 paths you could take. And then I loved the world. The world was really interesting to me. And you know what? It reminded me of Final Fantasy VII. This whole movie reminded me of Final Fantasy VII. The world that they're in.
What was the plot again of Total Recall? Like, wasn't it Arnold Schwarzenegger? Doesn't he like watch like a BD, almost like a video thing, or you can go live in a different place imaginatively?
Yes, and he got his mind wiped or whatever. And
go over the pitch of the plot.
So the pitch is that he's with his wife. Everything's like peachy and stuff, but he's like, I think I want to do that brain, kind of like Cyberpunk, like. Virtual
I want to live a different
thing.
life. Yeah, and I'll be in paradise.
I want to explore Mars and stuff. Well, something happens when they try to do that implant. It freaks with his brain because he's already been to Mars, and they tried to erase that from his brain. So he gets all fricked up, and then people want to kill him because he's like, you're not supposed to tell these secrets or what was going on there. He ends up at Mars at the beginning of the film. He ends up Mars, and the plot goes from there. But there in Mars, there's like this kind of like in Midgar, all these like slum areas, and that's where the 3-boob woman that we keep talking about is at. But it kind of reminded me of Midgar. It's like has that kind of aesthetic and these like parts of society there in it. I really loved the world, and I thought it was very funny at parts. There's a part at the beginning of the film where that wife turns on him. She's a double agent.
That's right. Yeah.
And she spoiler alert. He ends up getting a fight, and she almost kills him at one point, and all this crazy stuff happens. They get in a fight. He shoots his wife and kills her, and he goes, consider this a divorce. It was so... I really had a great time with Total Recall. So, highly recommended.
I gotta rewatch that.
Highly recommended. And then the last thing I want to kind of like conjoin these... I know I was going to play Ghost of Tsushima. I was getting that for Christmas and stuff. I'd asked for that. I got that game. To prepare, I love the Kurosawa films. Seven Samurai, Hidden Fortress, which heavily influenced Star Wars. Like, that was the reason. One of the major influences of Star Wars. I love Rashomon, that film. So this is a Japanese director, the highest of the highest, like, directors, like, highly acclaimed. Also made a movie called Rashomon. That's why we have flashbacks in films. He made the first flashback in a film.
Is he the first one to do that?
Yes, that film started that.
What is that the one? Is that the one where I think there's a Kurosawa movie where they show the same thing happening, but from one person's perspective.
That's it.
So it shows it from one person's perspective, another person's perspective, and the third time it shows what really happened.
Yes.
So Rian Johnson, when he made The Last Jedi, everybody gets so mad because Luke was going to kill Kylo Ren. He has said that this movie was his influence.
Oh.
He wanted to show Luke's perspective of what happened, Kylo's perspective of what happened and then what did happen.
Yes. And you know what I've been seeing lately?
In his sleep. He said that movie was a huge influence on writing The Last Jedi.
Funny that you
Last
mentioned
Jedi
that
sucked.
because that's been on my mind lately, Travis, what you just said.
Yeah.
I feel like we have a new generation of the Lost equivalent. So the TV show Lost, they were dead the whole time, or the what? I'm not even spoiling stuff. There's just something
There are
with the plot or
people
whatever.
who don't know how to
the ending.
understand
That
what
don't
what
understand.
something is conveying.
Yes.
You're right.
And this
so
is the
that
new version
scene-
of that.
This is the new version of that. So you're mentioning it right. So there's people that still to this day say, in Lost, everybody was dead.
Yeah.
No, they weren't. You didn't watch the whole show. You didn't understand what you were being shown.
Yes.
Same thing with Last Jedi. People say, that's not my Luke. He was going to kill Kylo in his sleep.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't. From Kylo's perspective,
Yeah.
he was. But there's 3 times they show what happened. First
Yeah.
time it's Luke, and he's not doing that. The second time is Kylo, and he is doing that, but that's not what happened.
Yeah.
Third time is what happened.
Yeah.
And he's not doing what you're saying.
and I've seen
people in their pea-sized brains cannot comprehend through a visual storytelling method the difference between somebody's perspective on something and then an actual representation of them doing it. Like they can't comprehend it.
How ironic is this? That there is a generation of people.
The same thing.
I'm seeing people on TikTok, and it's an alarming amount of people.
Oh yeah.
There's 1 out of 80 that I've seen that have explained what you're saying correctly. That this was Luke had a moment of weakness, but he didn't do it. Like he had just like it goes with his.
He was
character.
not going to kill Kylo.
Yeah, he wasn't gonna do
Kylo
it.
saw it that way, and they showed it in the movie, and they had the actor do it because that's
Yes.
how Kylo felt. It's emotional visual storytelling,
Yes.
not factual.
Yes, and how ironic that now we have a generation of people that think this happened, but there's actually a Rashomon level. Now we've gone meta, and there's people that don't know what happened in Last Jedi. But
yeah,
funny you mentioned that. Funny how that came out. But
I
I just want to recommend these. I just want to recommend like Seven Samurai, Rashomon. So I did watch 2 newer ones, and leading up to this, a movie called Sanjuro, which is very interesting. These plots are so rich with like, you are so invested in the story because it's so interesting. These older films from Kurosawa, but Sanjuro, I just want to give this one like shout out. This is such an amazing plot in that it starts with this guy. These people come in and they're like about to overthrow this like mini like government in this town. But there's a guy there staying at this hotel and didn't tell, like he was just chilling there and he's like, I heard everything you said, and they're like, we're gonna kill you, and he disarms all of them, and he's like, here's what you should do if you want to live, because this is not going to work out in your favor. He becomes a double agent for these people because everyone's trying to kill these, like, they're like 20-something, like, kids thinking they can overthrow all this stuff. So engrossing to see him, like, go side to side and stuff. Incredible film. So, watch that. Red Beer's about a doctor, who thinks he's better than himself, and he gets to see, like, the real pain and suffering of these, like, at this poor clinic. He, like, starts there. He's like, I'm too good for this. Very good. I'm not finished with it yet, but
and maybe I don't know if you've started Ghost of Tsushima, but obviously it's very inspired. I'm
about 4 hours into it.
Okay, so here's my question for you. I kind of want to. I'm not starting Ghost of Tsushima yet. I'm going to finish Cyberpunk first.
Yeah.
But of all these movies, if I was going to watch one as like, just a palette setter, get me kind of in that vibe, which one should I watch?
Seven Samurai.
Seven Samurai. Okay.
I think that's his most critically acclaimed, like most popular one, and that one is unbelievably good. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Very good. Very good. But that's it for other stuff. I do want to give a little baby shout out to the Game Awards. That happened.
One other thing happened. Oh yeah, Game Awards. So Last of Us 2 won the big award.
Yeah.
I don't remember much else.
We got a new Smash character. That was awesome.
They showed Sephiroth off. That was pretty cool.
I feel like there was lots of trailers for things that looked neat, but nothing that really.
Yeah.
There was one game on the PS5 that looked really beautiful. There was like a Left 4 Dead spiritual successor that looked fun after I made.
Guys, we're not gonna get good. We're not gonna get content that we desire until 6 years from now. That's how it works, man. All this stuff gets backloaded on the end of the
Yeah.
Was there anything else with Game Awards you wanted to mention?
I did want to give a shout out to. Well, there was the Perfect Dark sequel, or reboot or whatever.
Yeah,
which would be cool. Like we haven't seen Perfect Dark and
Eco, what they call it, Eco Cyber
or something. I don't know. Yeah. There wasn't any big stuff, but I want to give a shout out to Jeff Keighley. We always love that guy.
Yeah.
We did our reactions to it, but you can see it on our channel. But And this felt like E3. I just want to give a shout
Yeah.
out to that. This felt like the
Yeah.
only closest we could get to E3 in a pandemic year. So
To me, I would say almost just as much as E3, given this past year's E3 was really. I like E3 a lot, but this year I missed it a lot. It just didn't happen, and so this filled that void. So it made me appreciate the Game Awards more. I know he gets a lot of crap. I don't really know why, but it's definitely the best independent thing that gets put together.
Yeah, and also shout out to Naughty Dog when they won one of the awards. I think it's accessibility.
That was the funniest thing. The woman in the window.
The woman in the window just looking sad in the window.
That was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Could have probably figured out another setup for that, but...
The one other thing is that we have to talk about before we get into Game of the Year stuff is a little show that wrapped up The Mandalorian. So,
man, what a curveball!
We haven't talked about this hardly on the podcast at all because I think you guys were ahead of me for a while, and then I caught up at the very end. So well, I mean, I guess before we talk about the very end, I'm all caught up. I guess I want to pick it up from the last time we talked about it because. I feel like last time we talked about this on the podcast, we were having a conversation about, so The Mandalorian has been this show that it's in the Star Wars universe, but it's a very this is a unique thing. We're focused on this character, this side character, Baby Yoda, Mandalorian, and it's about them and their journey. And we had this conversation of if you go to the grocery store and you see someone once a year, you probably live in a decent sized city. If you go to the grocery store and every time you walk to the grocery store, you see somebody probably live in a small town. It's funny. We talked about that, and I said one of the reasons I like The Mandalorian right now is that's not happening. And then immediately after that, I watched, and this is gonna be open spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers all the way.
Ahsoka Tano, Boba Fett, fucking Luke Skywalker, just back to back to back to back. And so I have kind of two minds about it, right? So I think that the execution of that show has been good enough to warrant it, but it does kind of make me a little bit sad of I thought this was maybe our chance to fully just do something on its own, and that is just not going to happen. It looks like at least for this series, and now there's going to be Ahsoka, and they've got 2 more shows they announced that are all going to connect to Mandalorian, and then they're going to do some kind of a story event. So that's cool. I really liked The Mandalorian. I thought season 2, my impressions are season 2 way better than season 1.
Yeah,
I loved it. I think they're building to something really cool. I really found it satisfying the way they rounded out the story and how he gave up Baby Yoda. I actually was pretty, emotionally, kind of choked up a little bit because he gave up the baby. And I even thought it made story sense. If he's going to go with a Jedi in that time frame, it would be Luke. There wouldn't be anybody else. So I didn't think that was a bad call necessarily, but I did kind of find it a little bit man, if not now, when? When will they ever have the balls to not tie it back? And I guess maybe that's just what this universe will be. It's weird because I like season 2 better than season 1, but I have that critique, and it's do I like it better because they made it connect? I don't know. It's very conflicting. They've announced some other shows that are going to take place way in the past and a couple movies that are going to be in the future, but now I find myself just wondering, in the ones in the future, will it just be a grown-up Baby Yoda being regular Yoda? And the ones in the past, will it just be a Baby Yoda of the Yoda we already knew? Is it always going to be, connecting back to this thing? So, I don't know. I love the show. I thought that it was a great season. CGI Luke was rough. No way around that.
Yeah, it looked like PS4 Luke, huh?
So,
like a PS4 cutscene.
Yeah, it looked like a Battlefront cutscene.
I wanted to work through a couple of thoughts because, in my opinion, I think The Mandalorian, next to Rogue One, is one of the best Star Wars pieces to come out within this new generation of Star Wars. Rogue One and Mandalorian has just been top notch.
It's got the most consistent high watermark.
Yeah.
100%.
I love Last Jedi, but there are some moments in that movie that I just I can't.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's hard again with different writers, with different directors. It's hard to get a flow going. With this show, what it has going for us, it has a very big love letter, almost in the sense of we have a giant universe and we're finally expanding outside of it. What season 2 I feel did a great job in was it's mixing the old that we know, but we never knew what happened, with the new and expanded universe, but also dropping pieces and allowing it to evolve. I think my biggest applause was that we finally move on from Baby Yoda. We needed to move. I think for me, and here's why. The show's
You mean-
called The Mandalorian, and I think The Mandalorian. I understand, like, yes, you know, Baby Yoda, you know, Grogu, the part that that child plays, it's a huge part. It helps shape who he is, and helps do some really awesome character storytelling. I get that. My thing is that now we're separating and we're kind of moving on from that arc. We get to see now the Mandalorian explore back out into the universe, and it's pretty much wide open at this point. It could be anything.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I think I'm excited for, because it reopens up storytelling. We don't have to continue going down this narrow path of, I have a child, people want the child, I need to protect the child, but I'm trying to help the child. You know, and it's like...
There's a world in which they see the gold of Baby Yoda and they say, okay, well, this is going to be 5 seasons of they take the baby, he gets the baby back. They take like, it's a bold choice to literally hand the ball off to Luke Skywalker and take that very cute little baby out of the show. I don't think he'll be gone forever. I think there'll be probably one more season of The Mandalorian, maybe 2, but I don't see it being. I think now the whole concept of him, you know, finding meaning and caring after the kid, I think that chapter is at least going to be on pause. Yeah. It definitely seems like now you're right. They're going to connect him back to the larger issue of Mandalore, which I didn't give a crap about Mandalore. I don't watch the Clone Wars. I don't read these freaking books. I don't
all about this.
I don't know or care, but I will say they've made me care because they've set up this stuff with the Bo-Katan character who she is. They've made it interesting where there's different types of them, right? So there's the Mandalorian, who he was in like a cult, and we didn't know. I just thought that was how all the Mandalorians were. They lived in the little basement and they made their armor. But now the other Mandalorians are like, no, those guys are a cult. And then there's these other Mandalorians that can take their helmet off and they want to actually recreate the country or the society. And then there's like Boba Fett, who is just doing his own thing. Like, he doesn't care about any of it. He's not in a cult and he's not trying to help the country. He's trying to use it to do whatever he wants. And so I agree with you. Like, they can now dive more into Mandalore culture. And I think that now the big setup is he's got this sword. So he is technically the rightful heir to the throne.
Correct.
He doesn't want the sword, but the other girl can't just take it. She has to win it in battle. And so there actually is some interesting drama there. Like, that could be an interesting dynamic, you know?
100%. And they did such a good job of just interjecting it. I didn't even know that was coming. I'm sorry. I did not.
I don't think anybody
When they were fighting and he won the sword and he brought her in, her face, like, Bo-Katan's face was just so powerful. Because you could just tell she was crushed right there. It was like, this is not what it was supposed to be. Like, it was not at all what it was supposed to be.
And as someone that doesn't watch Clone Wars and knowing that Bo-Katan is in all those shows and stuff, I didn't feel, even Ahsoka, I didn't feel like I was you know, out of it. I felt like what they presented in the show, I could just take it at face value and follow along. And I didn't feel like I was missing anything major.
I love Luke Skywalker's, like, one-on-one. Remember watching Rogue One when Darth Vader walked in and at the end of the movie and you're like,
yeah, it was definitely.
Oh yeah, Luke, when he walked in, it was like, oh, this is really eerie. Like, I had that eerie feeling, like, this is Darth Vader again, like, in the hallway slicing and dicing people up.
Yeah, there's almost like a 1-to-1. They were inspired by the end of Rogue One,
which I like that. I liked that, the way they did that. I thought that was cool. CGI did look rough, but I'm telling you, I feel like they get closer and closer as time goes on, but it's never going to be what we want. Like, we're always going to know, like, this is not who we know it is. And at what point do they just chalk up the dust and recast? You know, when do they just finally say, like, it's time? Like, we need to recast this guy.
They got to find somebody on planet Earth that looks like him that's an actor and just figure it out. Maybe they will if they come back. But
Star Wars, they have such, like, they have such a bad tie to old actors that they just can't do it. They feel like the old actors is the only actor.
I mean, they recasted Han Solo and it went over like a wet fart for some people, but like, I accepted it. Like, you know what I mean? If you can do that, I don't think there's many other people you can't do. So
I agree.
I'm with you. I think I share a lot of the same sentiments. I liked the season a lot. I thought it was better than season 1. While I still have that critique of it, did feel a little bit like, hey, I'm bumping into someone I know every episode now.
Yeah.
In a weird way, it made sense. You know, like Boba Fett's probably the most far-fetched one because he was just after his armor. And I'm not like a guy that ever needed to see Boba Fett again. I think Boba Fett's like a meme. Like, that's how I've always felt when people are like, ooh, Boba Fett is going to get out of the Sarlacc pit. I've always rolled my eyes like that is literally, if that ever happens, peace out, I'm done. They have no more ideas. But even I, not really caring, I mean, it's kind of a magic trick the way they pulled it off. They found a way to bring him in that if I was questioning even for a second, they basically turned him into John Wick, and then you're smiling like a kid in a candy shop, just beating people with that staff. Like if the first time you see him, he's in the armor and he's like, taking off, it would have been lame. But
so as a kid, I loved the Boba Fett like action figure I had, and he's not. Yeah, he has no character at all. He's not a person. He's just an iconic like little symbol in the Star Wars universe of all these different aliens and races and all this stuff. But when that was it, Ashitana or whatever her name.
Yeah,
Ahsoka.
Which
one?
You're talking about the actor,
the one with the squid head or whatever.
It's Ahsoka.
Ahsoka
Tano.
So I never watched Clone Wars. I didn't know who that was, but I was like, yeah, why are they bringing these characters? Just let it be the Mandalorian and meeting these new characters and new whatever. That's what I was liking about this season. I was with you, Travis, on that. But I was back and forth because I was like, I never seen Clone Wars. I'm just going to act like this chick is just here and is another character. For me, for that. But when it comes to Boba Fett, I can't do that in my mind because I know. But when Boba Fett showed up, you're talking about the grocery store analogy and all these big characters. Boba Fett, I always felt when I saw the Mandalorian, I was like, oh, it's Boba Fett. You know what I mean? From afar. Because I don't know that much about Star Wars. That felt to me, if they don't put Boba Fett in here, that's a missed opportunity, and I feel like you gotta do it. You feel like you gotta not.
Because they look so similar.
They had a Chewbacca show or a Wookiee show, and you don't see Chewbacca the whole show. That's kind of lame.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
that's kind of lame. So having him come in and do those moves, it felt like a Power Rangers episode. And knocking out the stormtroopers out. I loved that. That was just a really fun. It was just all around fun.
And there's a YouTube video out there right now with Dave Filoni, who I think you guys know who he is, but if whoever's listening doesn't know, he's co-producer and writer on this show. He's the one that created Ahsoka. He wrote and directed Clone Wars. He wrote and directed Star Wars Rebels. They asked him, like, was it always a plan to bring in Ahsoka or Boba Fett? And he's like, look, like, first season, our goal was just to make a good show. Like, we can't go bringing in people from other shows in the first season. You got to establish these people. So they showed a lot of restraint, actually, by not bringing all those people in immediately. I mean, do you think the Disney shareholders weren't like, why isn't Boba Fett in the Mandalorian show? Why are we greenlighting a $200 million budget TV show without Boba Fett in it? So in a way, I feel like they held it off as long as they could. Yeah. Kind of to your point of, it starts to be like, why isn't this person? So I think it was right timing. And
Boba Fett makes sense. That was really cool.
Yeah. And Ahsoka only makes sense in the context of they were trying to find a Jedi because of
honestly, they didn't even stay fixated on it. They moved.
She was in one episode and they moved on.
Yeah. When the X-wing came in, I was like, this might be Ahsoka. I was like, this honestly.
And where she was actually related to the Mandalorian because the lady she was feuding with had a Mandalorian spear. Mm-hmm. And that is what he ended up using to fight the guy with the Darksaber. And so
I have no, I didn't even know, this might be embarrassing, but I did not even know where this took place. I knew it took place after the original trilogy.
Well, they don't really say. Yeah,
I didn't know and I didn't look it up. I was like, but then when I saw Luke, I was like, okay.
Were you shocked? Okay, yeah, let's talk about when they said one X-Wing approaching. My first thought was, is a fleet going to show up? And then they didn't. And then one docked. And I was like, who can that be?
And I saw that. And I was like, that has to be Luke, right?
I knew immediately. I was like, oh my God, is this Luke Skywalker? But what about you guys? When did you realize?
I thought, I was like, that has to be Luke, I think, because that's his X-Wing. He had an X-Wing. But I'm not a hardcore Star Wars guy, but pulls up and was like, oh, this could be really cool or whatever. And that lightsaber fight was really cool. But when the hood came off, and it was like, wow, I was like,
it
wow.
It looked like him before he talked. Like, it looked like him. I was like, whoa, they got it to look like him.
Yeah.
But then the lips, there's something.
Yeah, something's fricked up. But
they need to just.
But I had different emotions on that. One, it's like, that's freaking cool. The second is immediately at the very end, I was thinking the same thing you, Travis. Like, oh my gosh, I don't know if we can ever get away. Like, this almost cemented that maybe the icons are too big. It's like if they made a Mickey Mouse universe show, and you got to show Mickey Mouse every season or every other season. He has to be in there. You know what I mean?
They always talk. Gene Simmons from Kiss is always like, there's certain songs you gotta play. I
Yeah.
mean, if they come out to see you, you gotta play these
Yeah.
songs. You can't say, "Hey, good night. We're not gonna
Yeah.
play Detroit Rock City tonight."
Yeah,
like,
you have to
just
do
can't.
it.
Like,
So this kind of cemented
I
that
don't
I was
know.
like, I think other seasons are going to have these. They're going to have Han Solo. They're going to have all these in other shows too. I don't know who they're going to cameo, but I think for some reason it's I don't know how long it'll last. I do think it also is a thing with time because there's still people alive that know Luke and that know of course. But I'm just saying like.
This literally takes place 4 years after Return
I'm
of
seeing
the
on
Jedi.
TikTok there is a revival of nostalgia for kids that are 18, 19 for the prequel trilogy, which a lot of people don't like, but there is a rising generation of kids that go, no, we love that. That's awesome.
Oh my god, there's been that. Yeah.
So now when you're hearing stuff like where they announce that Anakin's coming back.
Anakin's coming back in the Obi-Wan show.
Yes. So when you hear stuff like that, it's like, well, maybe that's how we do it. Like it's just going to be generational and, like.
Hey, part of me when the X-Wing came in, I was like, that might be Obi-Wan. Yeah. I remember they were talking about doing the Obi-Wan show, and I was like, how cool would it have been that Obi-Wan had another apprentice while he was growing old? I was like, that would have been really cool. Because the whole issue with Grogu going with Luke is that in the movies, there was a ton of students. So now I feel like, where was Grogu when Ben Solo did what he
I've
did?
seen people ask that, Jacob, and I guess where I'm at with that, I've seen people say that, well, if he goes with Luke, well then Kylo kills everybody at the academy. That means
takes
Kylo,
him with him.
There is so much time in between this episode and Kylo Ren. Like, think about Luke. He's an old man when Kylo Ren leaves. It's like 30 years.
I know.
Right? So, like, to me, about 1.5 million different things could happen with this character. I don't even think this kid's gonna stay at Luke's temple long term.
The kid was like 50 already, though.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is I don't. This is like saying if you had a movie where in the same universe 9/11 happens, and then like 30 years earlier a kid goes and gets a job working at the elevator at the Twin Towers. Does that mean he dies in the 9/11 attacks? It's like, I don't know. Maybe he like gets a different job sometime in the next 30 years. Like maybe he goes somewhere else. Like just because the last place you see someone is where something terrible happens 30 years later, to me doesn't mean
it wasn't
that,
it wasn't the gap is too big.
Yeah.
To be
I don't think it's too big.
If it was like a week before, I'd be like, okay, yeah, maybe Grogu, they had to put him in a little pot or something and hide him.
Oh
or Kylo, but like he might be doing missions for Luke at that time. He might be starting a different, another plant, another academy on another planet. Maybe they're spreading out.
With Grogu being given away, I did think it was cool that it was Luke, because it was like if he would have went away to anybody else, everybody'd be mad. You know what I mean? Like, he would even.
There was no one
that.
else if it's in that time period.
Yeah. So I respect that it was Luke. I think that was the perfect choice to give Grogu away, because he's this new beloved iconic creature thing, and.
I guess here's where I'm at. I'm good with Grogu exiting for a time, but to me, like, the heart of the show is the Mandalorian and his relationship with the child. The Mandalorian's interesting to me, but he's way more interesting with that foil than he is without it long term. So I still would like to see the kid come back and be, with him in some way, but we'll see. I mean, they've done great so far. I'm ready to move on
from the kid, but that's my opinion. I'm like that.
I will say there's basically a 0% chance in my mind now that when they do another trilogy that's past Rey and all that, like the child will definitely be like the one running the temple when they do that. Like, you just know, like, he's such a hit. Yeah. Everybody loves him. Like, everybody loves that little kid. Like, he's going to be in this franchise for 50 years. We're going to be tired of him by the end of it.
I mean, I don't mind.
But he's so cute.
He was cute. He was funny. I hope his mannerisms don't change when he's an adult.
He's going to jump around with a little laser sword.
Yeah,
attack Count Dooku. Count Dooku's son. Him and Count Dooku's son are going to fight.
Oh my gosh. So, I love it. Keep giving me Star Wars content. I'm sorry, but I'm all about it right now.
Are you guys, they announced 18 different new shows. Any ones that stand out to you that you're excited about?
You have to think of it in different layers, right? So they announced 3 shows that are going to be in the same time period as The Mandalorian that are made by the same people. A Boba Fett show, an Ahsoka show, and then a New Republic show.
Yeah.
So like I view that as like a little cluster. I'll check out each of those shows because they're going to try to build it to like a big Avengers type story. I'll watch that because I think what their plan is. Yeah, well, what they're going to do is Ahsoka asked about it. They're going to build it to a General Thrawn thing. General Thrawn is like the guy from the old books that was the big bad guy after the Emperor.
Oh, wow.
So I think that they're going to do that. So I'm interested in that stuff. Sure. Then there's like a couple of animated shows. There's an animated show called Visions where they have hired 10 of the best like anime directors in Japan.
Yeah, that
and
one sounds cool.
They each get to do an anthology episode. I'm definitely interested in that. And then there's a couple shows that they announced that take place way in the past, like in the High Republic. I might look into those. So I don't know. It depends. Like it depends on what part of the cluster. If I'm definitely going to watch the Obi-Wan show also because it's 10 episodes. Like give me the Obi-Wan show. But
I'm going to eat as much.
The anime one probably interested me the most. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. I want to watch Obi-Wan and I want to see what they're building with these other shows in the anime. Other than that, we'll just see. I feel like though you can skip some of these shows. You don't have to watch all these. Like
no, you don't. But for some people who like live and breathe Star Wars, dude, you're giving them everything they dream of.
Yeah.
And little kids. I mean, the little kids.
I'll say if they're gonna do this explosion of content, doing it in a TV format is way better than trying to do it live action movies.
Yeah.
I only need like one movie a decade, if that. Like I don't really need any more movies. I know that they have a Rogue Squadron movie that they're making, but I could just as easily not have that. I don't care.
Well, boys, it's time for get the red carpet out.
Are we doing this?
Get the awards. This is the award, the game award.
2020 has sucked, but
really?
But
I thought it ruled.
But I will tell you right now, in terms of video games,
yeah,
that's been one of the better years.
Yeah, we got some heavy.
It's been a great year.
We got some bangers, man.
Some heavy hitters came out.
And I'm sitting here, and when I was putting together, I played more release games this year. When I say that, I mean like when a game comes out in 2018, I'm typically playing it in 2020.
Yeah,
that's normally how I am. But I have played more 2020 games this year than I have in my entire life. The games that came out on release.
I have too. I've played a lot of games from this year in the year that they came out, and there's a lot I didn't get to really that I wanted to. That also like even with all that I played, so I'm with you.
So I'm excited to kick this stinking thing off and talk about some awesome games.
What's the format? How do we want to do this? And then I know we all have honorable mentions.
What we've done in years past, we've done. I'm trying to pull up my little list I've got. Honorable mentions, and these you just quick off like they're not in your top 3. I think we should go top 3 as we've done in the past: TV shows, movies, games.
I might not have anything. There's no movies. I didn't watch any movies.
There might be one, but so honorable mentions. Just hey, this didn't make my top 3, but I do want to like tip my hat to it.
Yeah.
So let's start with movies and just start moving.
Yeah, let's just start with these other things.
With a smaller list. Movies. This is the first year I've always had 3. I don't have a top 3 this year.
I'm going to tell you right now, the movies I saw in theaters, and I can't remember pre-pandemic, but I saw 2 movies in theaters. I saw Tenet, and I saw The New Mutants. And if it tells you anything about my feelings on Tenet, I don't even feel like it would deserve a spot in my top 3 if I had a top 3. Like, I wouldn't even put that in there. So
don't have a single.
So I don't have any. I'm trying to think if any movies. No, I don't think I watched anything that came out this year at home.
This is already off to a great start.
I watched Tenet and I had fun with Tenet, and
So you're not even going to put that in anything.
No, I'm not going to put that in a list. No.
Okay.
It didn't feel like a movie that deserved to be. It was good. I enjoyed parts of it, but
I'm looking at the movies that.
When I think last year, it was like Joker or The Irishman. there was nothing. Yeah. This year,
Onward was a good movie. I like that.
I actually the New Mutants was fun.
Onward came out this year. I forgot about that. Okay,
we got the live action Milan.
Oh yeah, I watched the scene of that.
I didn't watch it. But we
I hate
got
to be a
it.
downer. Like I don't want to.
Okay.
I want to say I want to see Soul. I feel like if I'll just say Soul. That's my movie of the year.
Yeah,
I haven't
Onward.
even
Onward
watched
for
it
me.
yet. But
Chalk it up as Onward.
Okay, I'll start then. I forgot Onward come out. I'll put that as my number 3. I'll agree
There
with
we
you,
go.
Travis. Nothing this year for movies made me go, that's my number blank. Nothing made me do that.
so
But-
Tenet, you would say
But
was
Onward,
all right, but
Onward,
it was a little.
I'm going to give Onward my 3rd place.
Okay.
That was a funny, like, at time, like, I loved the the brother friendships.
I need to
like,
check that out. I didn't watch that.
I really liked that, and I did tear up at parts, and I thought they did an amazing job with that. Yeah, I did like Onward. I don't
It
know
was
why-
for me. I was like,
I'm like what Nolan's so mad at me right now. I'm like one of those people that doesn't vote, and it's like, well, vote for the lesser evil. It's like I'm not voting.
Yeah, vote for the lesser
I'm
of
not
two
voting.
evils. My number 2 is Borat.
Yeah.
Borat 2, so freaking funny, so poignant, so just of its time, great. I thought for a sequel to a movie that came out in 2006 or whatever, how amazing that turned out really good. And you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that character and everything, they made that come into the new age of just movies very well. Borat 2 is my number 2. Number 1, I will give to Tenet. I will go with you. Like I said, nothing was like, oh, this is definitely my whatever. But it was definitely an experience in the theater to see this and see these backwards fights and stuff and try to understand the story and what was going on. And I just love that kind of stuff. Like I'm a sucker for that stuff so much.
It was
that was
fun-
definitely my number 1. Like
It was a fun theater experience, like
Yeah.
absolutely. And I don't think it was like trash. I don't think it was
Yeah.
bad. I just was so mixed
Yeah.
on it overall.
I've heard
and
nothing but
in this
bad
year,
things.
there wasn't a ton of stuff to compete with it. Tenet was going to be my number 1. I saw
Yeah.
it pretty early on. So, it's and I love that the home releases come out and the subtitles that people were waiting for. I don't know if you saw this, Travis. The
I did
the
see this. Go
subtitles
ahead.
are it just says inaudible.
Yep.
At
When,
parts
like, they're
people didn't
talking?
understand.
Yeah.
When they're talking. So
Yeah, that's
inaudible
why he lost my vote.
inaudible talking backwards is another good one. I saw a screen cap of. So
I can't. Yeah, I
I'm
can't
going through a
handle it.
list just to make sure of movies that came out
Hey,
in
it's
2020.
not a long list.
I haven't even heard of any of this. So
yeah, nothing really caught my eye. Other
There's
than
The
Tenet. I do
Invisible
want to
Man.
tip of my hat to Tenet this year, but
I didn't watch it.
Tenet was fun, but
it was a fun experience. It felt like a Kojima movie, and I love this concept of fighting backwards. And there was some behind the scenes I learned earlier where he had to learn all of his moves forward and backwards for certain parts of that, like the choreography and stuff. I just respect that stuff. I love it. Great.
I have 3 shows. Okay, sorry, I'm listening, but I do have 3 shows.
Okay, you got shows now.
I do have shows.
Leftovers. That was a good one that you watched this
Yeah,
year.
great
Wasn't
one.
2020. Wasn't 2020.
Yeah, well,
Should have been
whatever.
2020. Yeah. Okay. So there's movies. That's
Movies
that.
was easy.
That was a fart.
This was the not the year for movies.
TV shows. Let's jump into number 3. Jacob, do you have 3?
What's TV, man? Guys, I don't watch a ton of TV. I will say this. I started watching an anime I picked up after Inuyasha.
Yeah.
I finished Inuyasha this year, which obviously didn't come out in 2020.
I think it's fair if there is if you don't have it to fill, just say, "Hey, I watched this year," maybe.
Yeah, I
and
watched
put that in your
Inuyasha.
top 3. Put that in your
I
top
watched
3.
Inuyasha. Phenomenal anime. I remember waking up at 2 a.m. and always catching like the back end of it
Yeah.
and be like, "This is really weird," and I never understood it. But now that I watched it in full, I was like, "This is a great anime. Wow,
Yeah.
it's so good." And then they recently they finished the anime called The Final Act. They finally finished it, and it was a beautiful ending. And now they have, which is my show so far of 2020. They only have 12 episodes, but it's Yashimi. I can't ever pronounce it right, but it's Yashimi, and it's about their kids and like what they do. So obviously they're going the Naruto route, but I like
Tell
their
him the
kids a lot
name.
more.
Tell him the name of the kid.
Biniyasha.
Like Boruto. He was telling me that. I was dying laughing at that.
So her name is Moroha, but whenever she puts on her robe that allows her to transform into a demon, she calls herself Beniasha, the demon.
No way,
slayer.
her name's Beniasha. That's hilarious.
I love it. I think it's cute. I think it's funny. But that's all I have on me.
I've been watching Boo Boo Bashiko and Evangelion lately too.
Evangelion. I like Bag and Ball V. Goku.
So what would you say? Is that your number 1 or number 3 or?
That's the only one. So yeah, number 1.
Did you like Mandalorian this year?
Well, yeah, but like.
Is that your number? Was that in your top 3?
Did it come out all in 2020?
Yeah.
Hold on. Let's slow down. So is that your 3?
I've only named 1. Yeah, Mandalorian would be the best show I've watched all year. Washime, whatever you want to pronounce it. I can't pronounce it. Would be number 2. There, let's move on. I watch a lot of YouTube.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, I watch a lot of YouTube also. Here's my shows. And I'll go with one first that would be my favorite show of the year, but it was older than this year. So Nathan For You is the old show that I started this year and watched all the way through. And I love that show. It pretty much speaks for itself. I think Zach, you've talked about it a bunch on here. It is by far the funniest show. And Nathan has a show that came out this year with another guy. It's a very different kind of show, I think, called How To with John Wilson, I think it's called.
Yeah, I think.
And I've been meaning to check that out, but I didn't watch that yet. But Nathan For You is a great show. All right, 3 shows, though, that came out this year. We talked about Mandalorian already. I had a blast. These aren't really in any particular. I would say that's the best fiction show I've watched this year. I really liked the series The Last Dance. That was really good. That was really a lot of fun. I liked it a lot. That was really fun. And then probably my favorite of any of the shows I watched this year was Unsolved Mysteries. We watched through those, my wife and I did, and had a great time. So they're all documentaries. But yeah. I enjoyed all those shows this year.
Awesome. I've got 3. I'm surprised nobody said Tiger King on here. That's not on my top.
I just said Tiger King.
Oh, you did? I was here. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So I have Westworld season 3 as my number 3.
Isn't that like a cyberpunk thing? Almost?
Yeah, they got very cyberpunk in it. I do like the other seasons. I ended up liking the other seasons more. Reflecting back on it, though, I still had a great time with it. There's some great episodes of this. I like what's his name? Aaron Paul, is that his name from Breaking Bad? Yeah, Breaking Bad. He does a great job in this. I love the world. It is very cyberpunk. Mm-hmm. To a point almost like 1-for-1 at certain characters and stuff. But I had a great time with that. My number 2, and I've been back and forth all day thinking about this. I'm gonna have to give my number 2. This is very close to Better Call Saul. The newest episode or season, Better Call Saul. What was hard was with my number 1. I'll just say my number 1 was Mandalorian. But
wow,
they were
Better Call Saul.
They were back and forth because Better Call Saul has a moment in it that reminded me of the Crawl Space episode in Breaking Bad, which that is an episode that will just like make you sweat. That just destroyed me. That Breaking Bad episode is so just gut wrenching. And this season had one moment in it, one episode towards the very end that has a moment where like, oh, I'm gonna puke. I can't even deal with this, like what they're doing right now. But I have to give it to Mandalorian because that one in this year of just garbage, crap year this was, this show just kind of made me, in the way that I just talked about Mad Max. I just love the world building. I love whatever. This kind of brought me back to that of like, oh, let's bring in the Tusken Raiders and let's take down this thing. And so, but I just love where this ended up. You know, some stuff with Luke and getting tied to these old characters. Even with that, this show was the most fun I've had with Star Wars in a long time. Yeah. With all the newer stuff and all these stuff coming on and the newer trilogy, I really dug this, and this was my, I definitely did like it better than the season 1 as well, like you said, Travis. Yeah. So I'll have to give it to The Mandalorian. I did not expect that, but I did want to mention another honorable mention on the movie thing, but I'll have to put Onward as number 3. I did like Bill and Ted. I thought that was just kind of a goofy, just funny little things they do at times on that. But
I heard a lot of people enjoyed that one.
Yeah, that was a fun out of 10 on that one.
But
Yeah.
darn it, movies may have sucked and TV shows may have sucked, but you know what did it? Video games of 2020.
Yeah, that's the truth right there.
And let's go through the brass tacks of it. I know about you guys, but I got honorable mentions.
Yeah,
I got some honorable mentions.
So can we do it this way? Can we? Because I know we kind of went 1, 2, 3 on these, but I think we should all go around to our honorable mentions and then all do our 3, our 2, and our 1.
Yeah, that's
and
fine.
not just blitz through.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Jacob, you want to kick us off with your honorable mentions?
Jacob?
I have 2 honorable mentions. 2 phenomenal games, but cannot be enjoyed in their right setting due to either limitations or lack of having the right equipment. The first one would be Half-Life Alyx. Wow. First things first. Talk about an immersive experience in VR, but not only that, in the world of Half-Life, it is scary, it is thrilling, it is immersive, it runs great. It's everything that a VR game should be and more. And to be able to sit here and say, like, if I told anyone you had to experience VR for the first time, it'd be this and Super Hot VR. These would be the 2 games that say you have to definitively play first. Because it is everything that VR should be and can be when done properly. And I cannot highly recommend Half-Life Alyx enough for what it is. I played it when quarantine started. I started streaming it, and then I went and finished it. And I was just like, this is a great game. I think, like, everyone who has a VR headset that's capable to run it should be playing this game. Doesn't matter who they are or what they've gone through. I know you 2 don't have it yet. Hopefully one day.
I wish they would have put that out for PSVR. And I'm still hoping, because the PS5 is more powerful than the PS4, like, I'm hoping that they'll put that out, because I want to play that, but I already own one VR headset.
Stuff with the controller probably wouldn't work, right?
No, it would, because the index, you can use it, but you can use any of the headsets.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually, there are ways to hook your PSVR to your computer.
Oculus headset.
Yeah.
So that's how I played it. And people
you just don't have finger tracking, but you don't need it. You can.
Yeah, I don't need a finger tracking. I don't really care about that. But that's next level immersion. But man, guys, like, you got to experience this game when you finally do be able to get a headset.
Yeah. Maybe next 2021 we'll see how the prices treat us.
Yeah, we'll see. Prices are going down. Oculus is the most cheap and powerful headset on the market, hands down. The only thing that sucks about it is the Facebook connectivity.
How much is Oculus?
Well, right now I got the Quest.
300, wasn't it?
Yeah, 300 for the Quest 2.
Pretty good deal.
And you can connect it to your PC, and it gets an upgrade boost. Like, it gets.
Can you play Half-Life Alyx with the Oculus Quest?
100%, yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, 100%. You just have to connect it to your PC.
Okay.
It's worth it, man. It is so freaking worth it, man.
Yeah, that's a good
Is that how you
honorable
played
mention.
it, Oculus Quest?
Yep. Oh, I played it with the Oculus Rift S.
Okay.
Which is below the Oculus Quest. So I'm telling you that yes, it does work.
Okay, gotcha.
You do have to buy a link cable though to connect it to your PC. But once you get that, you're good to go. It's just one cable.
Cool.
Gotcha.
The other game I have, which believe it or not didn't make it, but there's a reason why, and it's Spider-Man Miles Morales.
I'm surprised I didn't make it.
It is a phenomenal game. It is a really, 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 really good game. I just feel like there are other games I've played this year that were longer and more enriched in story. That made me feel like, and don't get me wrong, Spider-Man is definitely worth the price tag. You should go get it. You should play it. I had a blast playing the game at 60 frames. I had a blast playing the New Game Plus. I don't ever play New Game Pluses for games. And I played a New Game Plus for Spider-Man Miles Morales. But I think the other games I have on this list have made it for certain reasons. So.
Gotcha. I'm surprised. I thought that was going to make your list. You had Spider-Man, I think 26 or whatever it was. That last Spider-Man game was your game of the year that year, and you put it in your Generation Awards.
Yep.
So.
It's Spider-Man. That original Spider-Man game was everything they wanted to be. I want to play the remake on the PS5. I just haven't gotten time to get around to it.
Yeah. Well, I can hop in with my honorable mentions.
Yeah.
I have 3. First one is on my honorable mentions because there have been years with this list where I have like a 1 and a 2 and then a floating third spot that like one year I gave it to Destiny because it had a good expansion. Another year, like I gave it to like this little indie strategy game, but like I always have trouble with that third slot. This game would be in a normal year my third slot. Like it's that game that was a little more under the radar. I loved it. I played it a ton, but with how packed this year is, it just will not make it in. And I just have to shout this game out. And that's Crusader Kings 3. It's a genre pick.
Year because you talked a ton about that one as well.
It's a genre pick. There was like a couple of months where I played this game incessantly. In a different year, I definitely would have made my cut. And I guess the best way I could put it is just like the definitive strategy RPG game. Like it is different than any other strategy game in that you play the role of a ruler. Your ruler has traits. They're greedy or they're lustful or they're whatever. And so you have to, you don't, in most role playing games, you make decisions based on how do I want to express myself. This game gives you a ruler and it says, this is who this person is. You can either play the way that they are, or you can play outside of who they are and they'll go crazy, or they'll get cancer, or they'll get angry and have a breakdown because that's not who they are. And then you get to have new people. When your person dies, you play as their heir. And it just keeps going and going. And you can try to marry certain people so that you have certain kinds of kids so you can play the way you want to play. And so in that way, it mixes like The Sims with a strategy game, with like a Game of Thrones. Oh, I got to kill my daughter so she doesn't marry this guy he doesn't like me and he's trying to take over my country. So Crusader Kings 3 is a phenomenal game. It's a game that I feel like it's overlooked this year because of how many great games have come out. But yeah. I love it.
That's solid.
My second honorable mention is weird because it's one of my favorite games of all time, but it doesn't sit right with me putting it in my top 3. And so that is Demon's Souls. This game is a remaster. It's not a remake. It is literally the 2009 game. Yeah. And I love that because I love that game. But the underlying game, while it's one of my favorites of all time, it's not a 2020 game. Like, it is a 2009 game with amazing cutting edge visuals, amazing lighting and textures, and they made some nice quality of life changes. The music's higher quality in terms of fidelity, but I don't like it as much. But I've had a blast playing through this. I'm all the way at the end of the game. I had a great time with it. But it doesn't feel fresh to me in the same way that my top 3 games do. When I think about 2020, I'm not going to think about Demon's Souls. I'll think about Demon's Souls when I think about my favorite games from older generations, and I'll think of this remake as the best way to play that game. Mm-hmm. But it just doesn't. I love it, but I wouldn't put it in my top 3 for that reason. And then the third one is in my honorable mentions simply by nature of I just got onto it way too late, and that's Hades. I put Hades off because I didn't really like Supergiant Games' other games like Bastion, Transistor, I think we talked about the other day. I've always felt like they're cool, but they're a little hokey and the writing's a little goofy and the music's decent, but none of their games have ever hit for me. And so it almost became a thing this year where everybody's like, you got to play Hades, or Hades, however you say it. You got to play it. And I almost got obstinate of like, no, there's enough other good stuff. I'm not going to play it. But I had somebody recommending it to me again, and I had a gift card for Switch, and I picked it up, and I stayed up multiple nights during this Christmas break till 4 a.m. playing this game. It is addicting. It is fun. The writing is so concise and it's so good because you basically every time you die, you go back to this hub. But when you die and you go back to this hub, there are these little story characters, and you'll talk to them. They'll say something, you'll say something, they'll say something back. And the writing is so rich that they don't need to make these conversations go on and on. You don't have to select between like 8 different dialogue options. You just have a quick exchange and you move on. And it tells you more about them. You learn more about your character. And every time you die, it's almost okay because you get to further the little individual conversations you have going with these characters in the hub. And they give you little power-ups like, hey, I know you're struggling with this lady, here you go. And then on one of your runs, if you like kill that lady, she'll be in the bar back in the hub, like bitter that you killed her. And she's like, you won't get past me again. And so as you kill these people out in the world, because when you die, you go back to the beginning of Hades. Yeah. When you kill bosses, they go to the beginning of Hades and you have a beer with them and like you talk to them and you learn about their backstory. And it's an awesome game. I am
going to pick that one up. That might end up being my favorite of their games. Probably.
Yeah, it is. It's a great game, and I'm gushing about it. The problem is I'm only about maybe a fifth of the way through it, and I just started it way too late. It can't move any of the other 3 games off their spot. So those are my honorable mentions.
Cool. For me, I have quite a couple. Dreams, I just want to give a shout out to. I just got that the other day. Me and Travis played that on a stream. Yeah. That just has so many. There's a VR mode. I jumped in the other day and you could just play some VR with it.
Yeah.
It's just the stuff that people created is so fun. So that one's in there. Check that out. Little Big Planet people that made that. So incredible, amazing game. Persona 5 Royal came out this year. I've almost found that game, because I picked that game up, I put it back down, I picked that game up. That is a TV show of a video game. It is so ungodly long. There are definitely stop moments of that game. Like, you complete an arc of this thing, and it's like, all right, on to season 2. So I'm basically just finished season 2 of Persona 5.
Gotcha.
But I'm going to keep playing it probably into 2021, long into it, because it's so big and massive of a game. It's 90 plus hours. So having a really great time with it. I'm loving the characters. There's tons of dialogue stuff. Music's incredible. Very fun. Just really cool. And then I wanted to give another. This is almost all the games I played this year, but Tony Hawk Pro Skater. I just loved that came out. Just the best way to play that. Honestly, that is my favorite Tony Hawk's game now, because that's the best way to play these games, the first and second one. So that was great. And then one last honorable mention, same boat as you, Travis, of like, it's just too early to say. But I also think I'm pretty confident in my top 3, but Ghost of Tsushima. I just started playing that literally today. I'm like 5 hours. I dumped a ton of time into it today, 5 hours into it, and I'm having a great time with it, and I'll keep continuing. Like, I like how the story's being told, and I think I'm going to really end up digging this game in the long run, but I love the world and stuff and exploring it. But that's my honorable mentions. Oh, Demon Souls in there. It's Demon Souls. Same thing as you said, Travis, about like it's a remake. But
it's a remake, but I love it. It's not a dig at it, but it just
same. So that was a lot of honorable mentions, but that was mine.
It's been a crazy year. There was not a lot this year that I played that I was like, I mean, like, I played Wasteland 3. That game was okay, but like most of what I played this year, because there was so much good stuff, was worth shouting out.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I guess we should get into our number 3 slots. Jacob, I don't know, Zach. I feel like I know some of yours, but Jacob, you're like a mystery box to me, because I know things I love that you didn't play, and then I also know things I love that you didn't like. So I don't know what your picture is. So let's get you off the block. Why don't you go for number 3?
This year has been phenomenal. I mean, from games from Resident Evil to getting released, Call of Duty Warzone.
Resident Evil came out this year, 3.
Yeah, 3, getting Resident Evil 3. Getting like different types of this Pokemon stuff. Getting different types of Animal Crossing. There were so many games that hit the
great year for gaming, not life.
It is. That's hard to narrow down the 3, so I had to go off of this. During my time when I was locked in my home, when did I feel like I was most connected to people, or when did I feel like I was most connected to a story? Those were the 2 judgments I had. So number 3 is a late addition, but it's going to be Call of Duty Cold War. And here is why this is a late addition. You're right, Spider-Man was going to be my number 3 game, but I have bought this game this week, and I've sunk 25 hours into it already. I am 13 again.
Yeah.
I am playing with friends.
Yeah, I did feel that. I felt that the other night. I was like, this feels like when I was on Gears of War with my friends.
Yeah, I am screaming at people. I am making fun of their mothers. I am doing the whole Call of Duty experience again.
He's drinking Mountain Dew. He's being toxic.
Yeah, I love it. I have fallen in love with this game again. And here's my past complaint. And this is why I haven't played a Call of Duty since, I should say, I played Warzone, but I haven't played like a mainline Call of Duty since Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. Years. It's been years. And that one, you could fly around. It was so stupid. It was so dumb. It wasn't Call of Duty. And I just didn't fall in love with the franchise anymore. And then Black Ops 4 came out. And then all these other games started coming out. And I didn't jump on Modern Warfare, which I heard was a good game. But this one for me, the map design, I love the maps. They're not all 3 lanes. That was my biggest complaint in the old Call of Duty. All the maps are 3 lanes. There's a couple, because 3 lanes is natural to have in a PvP shooter. It's almost natural to design a map that way. But it's not like that. There are maps that are really wide open. There are maps that you can go different types of routes. There are game modes that I experienced with Zach Pike the other night that I was just laughing because, it was so big and so chaotic that I was like, this is Battlefield, but it's Call of Duty. Yeah. And I'm loving this. And it was everything I wanted. So I think for me, this is a game where I'm going to find myself 150 hours deep in and not even blink. And to me, that's a Game of the Year candidate. That's a Game of the Year where my money and my everything that I want in a game And it looks great, by the way. Can we talk about how good Call of Duty looks?
Yeah, it looks great, and the animations are extremely fluid. I've been having a blast playing it with
Yeah,
you
Yeah,
guys.
like
we're all three playing it together, and it does feel like we're 13 again, and staying
Yeah.
up late because of break. I'm on break right now and stuff, and
it's cool. It's a cool experience.
I'm on
glad
school
that-
break from school.
And I don't think you guys are going to have this in your list, and that's more than fair. I'd be surprised if one of you guys did. But for me, I just could not go by ignoring the fact of how much time I've sunk into this game this year, and it's only been 1 week.
Nice. Call of Duty.
Nice. There you go.
I think that might be the first time Call of Duty's been mentioned in one of our top threes, probably.
I don't think
I don't
we've
think it's
talked
ever been
about
before.
And no, but that's again, those were the metrics I measured my
Yeah.
decisions based off of.
Well,
Fragile to a T.
I guess you want to go next, Zach, or you want me to go?
I mean, I can go.
Go ahead and go.
My number 3 was Bugsnax. Bugsnax to me checked
Ew.
all the
What?
boxes.
Really?
Yes.
You're trolling.
It's not the best game ever made, but it was the most imaginative game I played this year. It was the most funny and fun and just it didn't take itself seriously, but I love when stuff's not serious and it takes itself very seriously. Like there's parts of this game and character interactions that are taken seriously, but it's such a Looney Tunes ideal that you eat these bugs that are shaped like strawberries and burgers, and they become part of your body. That is like an ideal that's totally.
And they're like drug heads about it. Like, oh, give me those bugs. And you feed it to them, and their arm turns into a hot dog, and they're like, "Yay! Like this is great."
It's totally up my alley because of how silly and how stupid. And when you take something so stupid and you're able to have serious stuff with it, but at the same time make fun of your own self, and that sums up this game. How goofy and it's just lunacy, the whole game. So I love the music, I love the characters, loved all that stuff. It's also, to me, the best Pokemon game ever made, probably, because you're trying to capture these things, and it's fun to try to capture these things. I would actually say it's, I hope Pokemon maybe looks at this game. I don't know.
There's a real heart to that game. I'm halfway through it, and I'm liking it, and I forgot because it's just been such a crazy year. That probably would have been an honorable mention for me, but there's just like there's this like surface level of just fun and goofiness, and then it really cuts to the core. Like some of the characters, it's not long; they don't dwell on it for a long time. At least what I got through, but just certain character interactions that it's like, whoa, that got really real. Like interpersonal issues. There's a guy. There's a guy who's a farmer that's split up from his wife, and he's mad, and then one of your quests is like, hey, go follow him at night, see what he does. And he's like dressed up a cactus to look like his wife, and he's talking to her. And it's just like, it's just these things that you don't expect in this kid's game. And then it's, marriages that are broken or friendships where there's people betraying each other.
That's why it definitely gets my number 3 of just that goofiness with like, oh no, there's some serious stuff in here, and it's done right. And good time.
Absolutely. There you go. My number 3 is Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I don't know. I'll try to keep it brief because there might be like an inherent like, oh, you wouldn't put Demon Souls in there because it's a remake, but you would put this. They're two completely different things.
I think they are too. Yeah,
they're two completely different things. So when you go to this is a capital R remake. And so when you go to remake something as beloved as Final Fantasy VII, there's a balance that you have to strike of, adhering to what people love and doing something new. And what I love is they like cut that balance right down the middle, but then almost kind of move past it, right? So they cared about adhering, like with the systems. They kept the materia.
Yeah.
They kept the moves. They kept the core characters. They kept the core conflict. They fleshed out all the things you're interested in, but then they did some really bold things with the story and just said, it doesn't matter that this is going to play out different, and here's why, and it's all going to make sense. And for that, I respect them. Like, this is, to me, the game equivalent of if somebody remade Star Wars, like the original Star Wars, and I don't know you could do that and nail it the way they nailed this. So major props to I almost said Konami, to Square Enix.
Major props to Konami.
I loved the original Final Fantasy VII, and I love this, and I'm in. I'm ready for the trilogy or whatever it is. I can't wait for the next one. It's by far the best remake of any property that I've ever played or watched because they knew how to strike out boldly while also there's a version of this game where you just mash X and there's no materia, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a version of this game where it's turn based and they didn't try to go for the new flashy action oriented gameplay. So many ways they could have gone wrong with this, and they just went right on almost every single thing. So Final Fantasy VII, loved it, had a great time with it.
Solid round of threes.
Now number 2, Jacob. Seems like he's still trying to think of it.
No, I have it. It's written down right in front of me. I'm just gonna laugh when I say it.
Matt, if you say Mad, I'm gonna freaking punch the screen this hard.
No, it's not Madden. My number 2 game of the year is Final Fantasy VII Remake. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, let's talk about this.
I'm genuinely shocked.
Yeah, please.
I'm genuinely shocked.
This game, it does tick me off that I know there's more story to come, and I paid $60 for it, and I didn't get the full experience of what it was. That's been a very big gripe of mine. If you watch any podcast,
this is a full arc. This is a full arc.
But for the love of all that is holy, man, what a game! The combat system was beautifully refined. I went back and played 15. And I was like, 15's a fart compared to this. They really cleaned it up. It was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. I love the progression. I love the characters. Guys, when I played this game, I no-lifed it for 35 hours straight, and then I got so burnt out on it that I was like, I have to do the side missions, but I just can't. I don't know why. So I took like a 5-month break. I came back and I no-lifed it in 3 days because I missed it so much. Yeah. And I just wanted the full experience. And when I got to the ending, I was like, I gotta pay $60 more for more. And I'm gonna do it. I'm going to
70.
Do it.
Actually, you're gonna be paying $70 more.
Son of a freaking gun! But I'm going to do it because that was such a good time, and it was so. First off, the music. I could just sit here and listen to the music non-stop, and music makes a game, guys. Music is important. But not only that, I genuinely want. I have not played 7. I've never played 7 before. This is my first experience playing 7. And now I'm sitting here like, I need the story. I don't know how it ends. I don't know anything. I'm spoiler-free on 7 since the 90s.
That's crazy.
Here's the thing, though, about 7. Here's the thing about the original 7 is it's so big, and it tries to just go so many places and so many different areas of the world. And the back half of that game is like almost Evangelion level of like slideshows. Here's what you need to know. It's a complete story, but they speed past certain things in that game that you could have sat in for a lot longer. I think if they do what they're capable of doing from this first one, and a lot needs to be seen, there's a world in which the trilogy or whatever this is ends up being a more definitive version of this story than the original. I mean, that's a pretty bold thing to say considering they haven't really delved into anything outside of the Midgar city, but you can play the original 7, but I'm glad we're getting a deeper, let's sit in each chunk of this for 50, 60 hours.
Another thing with the, now that I'm thinking of it, you're talking about it, and maybe this might help Jacob paying $60. I don't know. We'll try to sway him.
But I'm doing it no matter what. But
in the old PS1 game, that game was 40, 50 hours, but you ran around on the open world map, and you had to do turn-based, and it took a second, you had to fight. And that was a big chunk of your 50 hours, right? Whereas now, what is the content? What's the meat of the game? And that Final Fantasy VII Remake was all meat. It was all. There were some side quests you could skip, and they were fetch stuff, but the combat was so fun, like you were saying, Jacob, and the characters interacting and stuff. It's like there's a lot of meat to the game where they just package it down and they cut all the fluff out. It's like, well, now we're just going to give you that, and you're not running around and having a turn-based, and they're trying to milk it. Not milk it, but that's how those turn-based games were, and that's where a lot of their time came from.
What I love about the combat system is how difficult it is to manage everything that's going on around you.
Yeah.
And it's you can slow stuff down. So if I have to take a breather, I can hit my X button and just kind of assess what's going on around me.
Yeah.
But my time's still moving.
Yeah, very slow.
And it's like, I was like, oh, I like this. Because like, there were times when I'm fighting a boss and I was like, I have no idea how to go about this. And I keep getting my butt kicked. And so I'd sit there and I'm like, maybe if I went out and did this and I did that and I started like I pair different characters together, like those kind of mindset, like what spells would work. That was the level of thinking that went behind that combat system is what sold me over the edge about more than anything. The action was constantly there. The story was constantly. I didn't feel like the story was ever dull. I love the side. Some people they hate the side quests with Jesse and with all the other characters, and like we don't care about them. Screw them. I'm like, no, forget you. I loved that. I was like,
awesome.
That was one of my favorite
parts. When that
parts.
Top Gun music plays and you go skydiving.
Like, oh my gosh, I'm all about. I think that was hands down an easy decision to put this at my number 2 slot.
Nice, great number 2.
Great comeback for that game for you.
I've always liked it. I just hate the fact that I paid $120 for the full game, maybe $180 depending on how stupid they are.
It'll be $70 for the next one.
Whatever you want to call it. Just let's move on.
Okay, my number 2 is a game that some don't even want in their stores anymore. Cyberpunk 2077. I'm about 30 something out. I've dumped a lot of hours into it, honestly. This game for me, we haven't got to talk about this game at all on the podcast, but since it's come out, but there's been a lot of controversy about it. But going into it pretty blind, I've just seen this CD Projekt Red's making a sci-fi kind of cyberpunk kind of world or whatever, and this game has blown me away. Graphically, it is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Like, I think this is the best graphics. Like, a lot of games are coming out right now, like Last of Us Part 2 and all these other ones, and Death Stranding, that are ungodly beautiful. But this game, with the ray tracing and stuff, when you're looking at characters, NPCs, and they're looking at you in the eye, it hits different than any other game I've ever played. When the NPCs are saying something to you, and all these reflections are going on, and it's running, it's like, whoa, I've never seen like this before. The world of almost, I think, Travis, you said it's almost GTA-esque in the way that it's kind of lampooning kind of capitalism. And corporations have kind of taken over, and they're kind of these new, they're kind of like these factions. Corporations are now the new gods in this kind of world. I love that. I freaking adore this world. I adore the little nooks and crannies. I keep looking at NPC characters. I've never done that in any other game. Can't do it in Final Fantasy VII Remake. You're not looking at any NPC characters in that game. But in this game, they look so beautifully detailed. Every NPC looks beautifully detailed, even though they're probably randomly generated. It's so interesting. The colors,
outfits, and the colors. Yeah.
The ways it reminds me also this game of Metal Gear Solid 5 of the ways it's like, hey, we need to grab. There's somebody. Some of the side missions are, hey, there's somebody in there that's kidnapped. If you get him out, you get some money for doing it. Okay. Well, I can jump over this fence and do that, or I can turn off, I can hack into this system and turn all the cameras off and go up and do this, or I can go guns blazing. And I've gone guns blazing into a thing and just kill everybody that way. But the choice, there is tons of little weird ways you can get into it, and it's not, that's kind of...
You can think of things and...
Yeah, and ways you can really think on your feet and like, okay, I'm going to do that and hack this system. Oh, it's worked out great for me. But the city... to me, that's kind of the heart and the meat of this game is rolling around, the radio's on, you're on the bike, you're in the car, and you're looking up at these giant advertisements. The reflections are going on. There's people walking by. You hear conversations going on between people. And the conversations go for a while, and you're like learning about a little part of the city. It's almost like art. To me, it's like the art of the world has drawn me in, and that's the big reason why this is my number 2, of just experiencing this freaking world and getting lost in it.
Yeah.
Incredible. The gunplay. We were talking about Call of Duty, which I'm having fun with you guys, but the gunplay is some of the best I've ever played. And I didn't expect that from this game. I'm loving just ducking out from cover and shooting and shooting. Some guns you can actually, it'll auto aim into the person. It has these different mods you can put into it. And I just came off Deus Ex, and I freaking loved that. And this is kind of the 2020 version of that. It just above and beyond kind of pushes past what Deus Ex did. I freaking love Cyberpunk. I'm still into it and trying to 100% it, or whatever that looks like, because I'm just having a great freaking time with it. So my number 2, Cyberpunk 2077.
Cyberpunk is also my number 2. So I obviously echo a lot of what you're saying. Apart from all the controversy, of which I would say affects me 5%, 2%, like. I've had some game-breaking glitches a couple times.
Yeah.
I've fallen through the world a couple times. Whatever. Like I can deal with that. I'm a big boy. I can restart my game. I know it's worse on other platforms,
Yeah.
but in a lot of other ways, this is a dream game for me. Like you nailed it, which is the Night City as a place is the most fully realized setting I think I've ever seen in a game. The architecture and the way the buildings are laid out and the way that every single place you turn is a wallpaper.
Yeah.
Every single alley or street you look down or you're driving, like you're almost like, I need to stop and capture this.
Yeah.
Or there's fog or there's haze or there's lights and it looks like Blade Runner and the ad thing, the bus is driving through the sky. I exited, there's an NPC named Judy in the game and I exited her apartment and I just look up and I'm like in the Neo Tokyo area and then I can see the skyline and it's night and there's water and I'm just like, this is just a place I happen to stumble upon. I feel like I'm sightseeing in a real city. Like this looks unbelievable. And it takes it another step to where when I play Skyrim or whatever, I try to do the walking around, but then I just end up just fast traveling because it's just easier. I genuinely drive everywhere in this game. Yeah. And I stop and I look at everything and I walk and I actually get in my character's head of like, okay, what would I do next? Would I call this person back or would I go work on this side quest or would I go here? Or this person told me they want to meet me at night. It's 11 o'clock. I could probably go do this thing. And then if I get that done, it'll be time to go over there. Like I genuinely am living in this city because it's fun. Like it literally feels like a real place. And in this game, there's times where like you'll be talking to an NPC and they'll be like, hey, we need to go across town to Watson because we need to do this. You want to come with me or do you want to meet me there? Every time I just click meet me there or I click go with you because you get in their car and you ride shotgun and you might talk for a second, but then it's just quiet and you can just sit there.
Yeah.
And there's rain pouring down and you're first person sitting in this person's car.
I love that.
And I got all the lights off. I got my side screens off and I'm just literally, you look out the window and it looks like you're in Blade Runner world and you're just like looking out the window and buses are driving by and you're there.
This game, I don't even know what you would call it. There hasn't been anything like that has tried to do a Blade Runner to this level that I know of, right?
No.
And I was
open world is always fantasy or modern day. It's never future like
and
this.
As I was playing it, I was like, because like, what world do I like? Do I like fantasy or sci-fi or whatever? It's like, I kind of like this, like whatever this is. It's kind of like future, but it's still set in like it's not too crazy. I don't know how to explain it.
It's not like it's not like a different planet.
It's not spaceship stuff, crazy future. It's just the city is stuck in this capitalistic hell hole.
Yeah.
And that world is one of my favorites I've ever explored because also for how crazy the city looks at neon lights, there's side quests I've done and like, the way there's such cool lore of like, hey, the fourth corpo war. There was war between corporations. Like they literally had their own army. Like what's going on here? Like what?
The world building is so. When you first start the game, it feels like you're drinking from a fire hose of just like they're just saying all these things, and you're like, do I need to know what that is? What's that? What's this? And you realize, oh, I just need to experience this, and I'll learn the lingo. I'll learn, and you do like. After 10, 12 hours, you start to get a feel for what's going on. And then I'm picking up shards and some of them I read and some of them I don't, but I'm getting little nuggets. And then those pieces of lore weave into the story, which that's another thing is I'm about a little over halfway through the story. Yeah. I think that this story I'm enjoying the main story of this more than I enjoyed the Witcher 3 story. And I like the Witcher 3 story a lot, but it got to be just so we're going to go here and we're going to go there and we're going to go here. And Geralt, I like Geralt a lot, but it got to be a little bit like are you going to be with Triss? Are you going to be with Yennefer? And I like that world. It's different, but I'm very much enjoying V. Yeah. And V's journey and how Johnny Silverhand weaves in and all these people like from 2020 in his world that are still here in this world, and you're just weaving in and out. And I think it's a great game. I think it's really special. It's big. It's beautiful. It's bold. It's kind of messy. Yeah. I definitely at times I'm like, man, I wish it had just another couple months in the oven so that some of these glitches weren't here. But when they iron all that stuff out, this is a game. I'm ready for story DLC. I'm ready for expansions. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. And to me, this is going to be my Skyrim. Like this is the world that they can keep adding to, and I'm going to play it in mods. There's already a lot of people modding it.
There's been so many funny it also does what I like with Witcher 3, which is there's total side quest stuff you can skip and little shards you can not read. The shards that are in the side quest are really interesting and add to it. There's one that's really funny. I won't go into it because it's very vulgar, but made me laugh. They were torturing this guy. You were sent in to save him. So I killed the guy that was torturing him when I came in or whatever. This guard, and killed him, and there was a shard there, and it was a recap of the torture session or whatever, and they're like, tell us whatever, and he was like, where's that? And he's like, yeah, come closer, I'll tell you. And he's like, your mom's house. And he hits him or something, and he's like, there's like whimpering or something he says, or like he's hurt or whatever, and it's like, you're gonna tell me now? And it's like, yeah, your mom was good last night, or they just said this vulgar stuff to him, and then it was like, hurts him again. It was like, said one more thing about his mom or whatever after that, and it was such good writing. It was such witty writing, and I was like, this guy was totally messed up when I came in. And he's like, you gonna get me out of here? He's just such a tough guy. But just stuff like that you could skip, and you can just keep doing the main quest and beat it in 10 hours or whatever it was, and that's all you get. But if you dig a little deeper, there's some funny writing. There's some very depraved stuff going on with the future.
There's some very depressing,
dark. I would say this is one of the
stuff.
darkest, most evil games I've played in certain areas, because
there was something in a quest I just experienced that was I can't even say what it was. The quest is called Sinnerman, but it goes in a direction I did not anticipate, and it wound up going to like this. The closest thing I could compare it to was there's a movie called Mother with Jennifer Lawrence. And that movie goes somewhere that you just, when it gets to the end, you're like, this is, I need to take a shower. This got so gross, but it's interesting and it makes you think. And this game has a quest that it just goes in a place I did not expect.
The game explores like what happens when you get rid of religion or it's all about technology. What happens if you get rid of those things and corporations rule? What happens when pure capitalism is allowed to run loose? And they explore that, and I love that exploration because it turns into the most evil things you get to see in a video game. I think just between they call brain dances, and they're basically just think of Nintendo Switches you stick in your head, cartridges you stick in your head, and you get to relive a moment. But people can edit these things, and there's like dark net levels of brain dances where people get murdered and people want to experience that, and it's very depraved, it's very dark and evil, but it's like it gives I'm more afraid of certain parts of this game than I am of like a person going into hell and doom. You know what I mean? Or like, for some reason, this level of like what they're exploring and people's depravity.
It feels like genuine science fiction, like interesting storytelling.
Yeah, they really go all the way with it. It's like, this is what would happen if we let these systems go unmatched. And it's like, we turn into corporations own the world and they rule everybody's life. And I love it. I love where the story is right now in it, and I can talk all day about it because I freaking love it. To kind of touch on the stuff I do get on the controversy side, the consoles, the base console versions, and what happened with that, probably could have handled a little bit better on their part and whatever. But as far as the PC version, like I said, like Travis said, experiencing bugs, but the city and everything that they aimed for, I compare it with Death Stranding and Last of Us Part 2, of so many millions of dollars thrown into this project, and oh my gosh, like, I love that this got made, just like Last of Us 2 and Death Stranding. Gosh, this is so inventive, and like, we're heading somewhere, you know what I mean? Like, we're trying to push the envelope.
And the people that are in this game is wildly successful, despite all of what's happened and the refunds. It sold 13 million copies after refunds. So like, they're good, you know, like, but the people early on with the controversy that were dancing on the grade of CDPR, the people that make this game. And I was seeing things along the lines of like, this is everything wrong with the industry of this game. No, it's not. Everything wrong with this industry are the people that shit out the same game year in and year out with no imagination. That's what's wrong with the industry. Yeah, these guys messed up, and they definitely deserve to be called out for the performance of the base consoles. But I will take a messy, awesome game like this every single time over Assassin's Creed 18. I'm liking Call of Duty, but just the same amount of money gets put into other games, and there's no imagination. And I needed to say that to get that off my chest. There's people out there that I think that would rather big games not get made like this, and I don't understand those people. I don't know what they're rooting
I also
for.
compare this to GTA 5 in the way that I heard it on the Mix 64 podcast. They were talking about this game, and they're like, you know what? Some of this comes down to being lucky and not being lucky, and they kind of
Yeah.
did not become lucky in the way that when they started this game, they didn't know what the PS5 was. You know, this started in like 2012. So like, were they gonna make the PS4 generation? Oh, they kind of missed just the mark, and it's like this. Okay, do we? I also think of Ukulele, who started their Kickstarter for the Wii U, and one of the tiers was to Wii U. And they had to cancel that. And people got extremely pissed, but it was like another luck thing. It's like, do we get this done in time to where it makes sense to launch on system A, B, C?
Yeah.
With Cyberpunk, no, they struck out, and they're paying the penalty for that.
It.
But at the same time, it's like you have this vision, and these games cost so many millions of dollars, and so many things can go wrong. It's a miracle this game came out. And compared to Skyrim and Fallout 4 and Fallout whatever, the Bethesda's track record, it's become a meme to make fun of the glitches in Bethesda, but why can't they have bugs in that?
Have any of you guys played Skyrim on a PS3?
No.
I did a couple years ago over at my brother's apartment. It's rough. It's like 20 frames a second. It's glitches galore. And I think that people have gotten a little, I was going to say, the game didn't launch in a good state on base consoles, but people on console have gotten a little spoiled with PS4 Pro and Xbox One X and now the Series X and with PS5. And so they want 60 frames. They want ray tracing. They want all these things. Hey, when it comes to a game of this level of detail, you're not going to get it. So if you want that, you're going to have to get a PC. Like, that's just the sad truth of it. Yeah. But I mean, it is what it is. Yeah. Like they erred on the side of, let's make the best possible game for the highest benchmark and figure out everything else. And it's biting them in the butt, but that's going to make the game age better. I will say that. Like in 5 years, you could put this game on like a cutting edge rig and play it, and it's going to be unbelievable. Yeah. It's going to be unbelievable. Yeah. So
cool.
Well, that's a number 2 right
for
there.
that being our number 2 game, we talked about it, but we haven't had a chance to review it or anything.
Yeah, that was going to.
And we should probably do a review video later, but I'm with you. I'm trying to play everything in that game. So
yeah. Our number one.
Down to number 1.
We've come to the big enchilada. Jacob.
This is exciting.
Our biggest goal when reviewing any type of game or whenever determining what a game is was it fun? Did you enjoy it? Did I spend a lot of time in it? Spending 170 hours in this game this year, I would say I did spend a lot of time in it. And I did have a lot of fun with it. Madden NFL 20 was a game that nobody ever saw coming. I'm just kidding. It's not that game. All right. I have spent 170 hours in Madden, I believe, franchise for anything. That is not my game of the year. My game of the year is no other than Last of Us Part 2. Last of Us Part 2. Yes, I know. I'm looking at your face right now.
No, it's a joke. You dude.
No, 100%. It's my game of the year.
Okay.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
I need you to actually.
You just said the game has to be fun.
Wait, Jacob, are you for real?
I'm 100% for real. My game of the year is Last of Us Part 2.
Go ahead.
Let me unwrap this one.
Yeah, please. God, let me take a drink. I need a harder drink for this.
When we last played this game, we went through our little tobacco and we talked about what this game was and how it was so divisive and so evil in the way that it forces you to do things that you never would normally think you'd do in a video game. And here's what I'm going to say. It's something that gets better with age. Something that gets better with age 120%. It's so funny. But
guest there.
I know, it's okay. Here's what I mean by that. When I played it at first and I walked away from the game, I was like, there was nothing in that gameplay that I was like was bad. The gameplay mechanic was awesome of it. I had fun playing the game. There was moments when I was like the water moment when I was in the boat where I was like, this kind of sucks. But that was pretty much my only like crappy moment of the game. But here I am sitting in December, and I started rewatching someone else play the game, and I sat there and I'm watching.
It went full circle. He had to rewatch. He had to watch someone play it again.
Yeah, I'm watching the story aspect of it, and I was like, this really does hit you differently. Because I know what's happening, and as I watch the story unfold, it's a whole new element that I didn't expect to see. I know where this is going. I know where this is ending. And it makes you appreciate the writing style. It makes you appreciate the direction of the game so much more. It's still not a fantastic game, but that's from an emotional standpoint for me.
I'm with you. I'm
why-
laughing because I get the tension with this game.
Yeah,
I'm laughing because of that.
This is also my game of the year.
mhm.
The arc we have been on with this game is just something else entirely. Like, go ahead, you're doing it awesome. I love what you're saying, but I just
No, 100%. It is
not-
in its own right a story arc. It has definitely been a very big journey that I still think about. It's been 6 months.
that was our longest review. I don't think any game we will ever review as much time. Yeah, so let me piggyback off because this is my game of the year also. It fully engrossed me from start to finish, which was an impressive feat considering the first one did not. I love the core themes of tribalism, hate, forgiveness, the way they use Joel and Ellie's relationship breaking and then coming back together, interweaved with this other story with this other girl and her tribe and Ellie and her tribe and their tribes fighting. To me, it's like an epic. I actually compared to Godfather 1, Godfather 2, and it's funny that, Zach, you're a Godfather 2 guy, I'm a Godfather 1 guy, but with Last of Us, I'm a Last of Us 2 guy, you're a Last of Us 1 guy, because the Godfather 1 is storytelling 101. Son inherits the kingdom from his father. He learns how to be, that guy. Last of Us 1 is kind of that same way. Guy learns how to be a father. He's the Michael Corleone. It's a different story entirely, but he's learning how to be this person again, right? Whereas Godfather 2 is some stuff in the past and some stuff in the future and this other stuff going on in the present, and it all comes together and weaves all these themes together to tell you a story, right? And so that's why I don't like Godfather 2 as much as 1, but I appreciate it. And I think that's why, Zach, for you, Last of Us 2, you felt like it was doing too many different things that you didn't find interesting. Yeah. It's just really funny to me that we're on opposite ends, but for those two franchises. But it all worked for me in Last of Us 2. And the gameplay systems were tuned to perfection. I really think it's the best third-person action game I've ever played. It's right there with Metal Gear Solid 5. They do different things, but I think the fighting in this is a little bit better than the fighting in Metal Gear Solid 5, whereas the sneaking in 5 is.
I think what it does.
It was the game where Naughty Dog stepped up to Kojima level, mixing gameplay with storytelling, with themes, bringing it all together, and it is a work of art. So
I think
why
what solidifies this as being the game of the year for me is that this game was so powerful in the sense that it leaves a lasting impression on a generation. That when I think about the last generation of gaming, this is one of the games I'm going to think about definitively. And the reason I think about it is because of how divisive it was. And not only that, but how powerful of a story and how powerful of a hate message it was, in the sense of your hatred and your rage will drive you to do things that you'll never forget, and all you see, it becomes tunnel vision at that point. And you learn to appreciate that message more as time goes on.
What other game that has a $300 million budget has a story with that being its core?
I'm still thinking about the story to this day.
Yeah,
and I think that's just
happen.
It's a testament to how powerful of a story it was. I will not sit here and say that every part of this game was my favorite. Again, I have some really big critiques about it. And I'm definitely, if you haven't played the game yet, spoiler. I sucks that I know that in future games we might not have Joel as a main character. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay if we don't have another game.
Yeah, I don't.
At this point.
Yeah, I'm done with it too.
So, at the end of the day, I know what Zach's game of the year is probably going to be.
Where I fell on it, because now that time has passed, I always respected it, and that has grown for the balls that it has, along with Death Stranding and Cyberpunk, to push the envelope, to try different stuff. And Naughty Dog, even this game that I didn't gel with it, and I gave it the new rating, you should play it, courtesy of Jacob here, making that on our scale, but I like that it took those chances, but I do think about the game often, maybe in a different regard, in that I do continue to respect the choices it made and the story it tried to tell. But I look at it, we're talking about fun, and every now and then it's I want to pop in Uncharted 4, and I streamed that. That was my last PS4 game stream before the PS5 came out. you know what, I want to pop in, The Last of Us 1. I want to try out, let's put in Crash Bandicoot. Let's put in Jak and Daxter. See what, When I think of Last of Us Part 2, that's one of the only games from Naughty Dog that it's like, I don't want to experience that first 50% of the game. I didn't have fun with it. I really was miserable through it. I respect the story stuff and what it was doing, but it was a pain for me to get through, and I still kind of hold to that I don't see myself revisiting it yet. That's where my heart is right now. Maybe I have a heart of hate, and I need to let that go. But I don't find myself revisiting this game or having any desire to revisit it. Do I respect it? Yes. Do I like it? No. Yes, parts of it, but this has been an arc. This has been an arc with us.
If you had told me before this game came out that you were going to feel that way and I was going to feel the way I would feel, I would not have believed you. And then if you had told me when we did our review that Jacob was going to put it as his game of the year, I would not have believed that either. Jacob, we got to go back to the summer when we were sitting on the podcast outside and you said it was a 6 out of 10 gameplay because you watched somebody play it.
I want to talk through the fact of this is like, you cannot discredit something just because you do not like the output of it. And I respect what Zach just said. Well, not the output of it, the way it made you feel or the way you reacted to it. I can critically claim that, hey, Cyberpunk is a really awesome story. It looks great. I'm never going to play it. It does not appeal to me.
Sure.
But I can still respect the art of it.
Yeah.
And when I look at Last of Us, I think the respect for me, it's right here. But in terms of like overarching impressions and like it makes me think about life. Final Fantasy VII doesn't make me think about my life. I just like Tifa. She's cool. You know what I mean? Like when you think of Last of Us Part 2, you think about like, how do I interact with people?
Yeah.
Do I carry grudges? Am I hateful? Am I vengeful sometimes? And I'm like, and that's really cool. That's a very impactful video game. I give that to Naughty Dog in doing such a great job in portraying just the idea that rage will ruin everything you love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had the problems with the side characters and stuff, but those core things that they were doing that kind of weaved throughout, the good stuff of that weaving, incredible. That's what I love about Naughty Dog, and they knocked it out of the park again. You know what I mean? That continued that legacy that they have, so.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
my number one video game of the year. Madden 2017. I mean, Final Fantasy VII Remake. Few games come along in my playthrough of them that I immediately want to jump right back into a second playthrough. Very few games come along to where everything kind of clicks for me with the music, the story, the combat. Everything feels so good. I'm getting goosebumps throughout, and that was this remake. I was kind of worried about this remake at certain times of its development cycle because it could have gone either way. We had Final Fantasy 15 that kind of fell apart. I had to watch 30 movies to understand the plot to 15, and that didn't get finished. What was this going to be? Kingdom Hearts 3 was great, but it was too little too late, and it's like, what's 7 Remake going to turn out? I was kind of worried. But there are certain parts of this game when you first see Aerith, and there is such a respect. If we're talking about Star Wars and these legendary icons, there is such a respect for these old characters and Cloud and Tifa and Aerith and Barret and for these areas. There's such respect for them, and that is definitely big winks of like, we know that you love this character. The winks are everywhere. But the class and how they portray Aerith and Tifa and these worlds that you get to go back and explore way more detailed and is done top notch. Like a couple parts that stick out to me is when you first are you're jumping along these rooftops with Aerith and that music comes in, just very subtle, and you're going back. You're going to go back to where Aerith's at, and you get to find her house and all this stuff. And it's just goosebumps throughout this entire game I had. Yeah. The combat, like Jacob was saying earlier, is so fun. Okay, I got to do this. Okay, if I could pause time right here. It's the best combat I've played in years. The best gameplay I've played since Metal Gear Solid 5. I know it's a different type of game, but I just want to keep playing it. That's why I did some of the side missions where it's like, find my cat. because I just want to be in the freaking world. Because I just want to freaking hear the music. Going back to Last of Us, where it's like this is kind of dragging for me personally from the combat and stuff. I don't want to keep doing this or keep exploring this, whatever. I wanted to keep, playing this after it ended. But I love this. I love where the story can go from now. It's kind of a blank slate in certain parts of this. Like, are they going to change things up? I think they are. I'm very excited to see where they go. But this game made me just goosebumps throughout, and that is, this game I've always wanted, like this. I hold this up to my game of the year. So
it's awesome.
I'm glad. I think all of these games have been great. I don't think there's ever I don't sit here and say like I think you're definitively wrong or I think that's stupid. 2020's been awesome.
Yeah, it's been great for games.
I'm sitting here and I even got to play. I'm sitting here thinking about like we got new Super Hot. We got Mario. Oh my gosh, guys, the Mario remake on the Switch that took up so much of my time that I put into it. I played a lot of Madden. It's a crappy game, but I love football.
I'm just busting your balls because you're like, I hate Madden. All right, I'm playing it again tonight.
Look, other games that came out, Microsoft Flight Simulator. That game's really fun.
It has a VR port, by the way. I haven't played it yet, but the VR.
Valorant was a really good multiplayer game. Fall Guys, Among Us. Jacob, I thought Among Us would pop up on one of your lists.
Among Us came out technically in 2018. I wasn't like.
Yeah.
I didn't want to break the rules, but I would put Among Us in here. For me, I've played the crap out of Among Us. I still play the crap out of Among Us.
But all that being said, I would say we've had a series of really good years. This year was unbelievable.
Yeah.
To the point that I said this last year, and I'll say this again. I'm good if we take a break. Like if for a year we just get. I don't know what's on the horizon next year, but I'm good if they slow their roll a little bit. And give me some time to catch up because there's been a lot.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Well, for video games. For everything else, it sucks.
Yeah, so, if you would have told me last year that I would not have Last of Us 2 anywhere in my top 3 and a pandemic, I would have thought you were crazy.
You would have thought something seriously wrong was going to happen. I guess for you it did. But.
To this day, I still go back to the podcast where we were all laughing about how we were like, this is going to blow over, or possibly this is going to be crazy.
This year, I mean, our podcast started out in this room that I'm in, right? For 2 months. And then I think March was the first one. Yeah, because by the end of March, we were kind of secluded and kind of quarantined. And then we came out during the summer because we were able to do it outside. I want to get back outside. I want to see you guys again in person, but
it's really cold.
It's really cold.
It's very cold here right now.
Very hard to do any of this stuff. So, but I want to big shout out to our fans, people that subscribed. Thanks for watching the streams.
We appreciate everything that you guys are here.
We absolutely do.
I think every year we try to put out new and more content and try to be different.
And we still have stuff. The COVID stuff hit and I got lost in work and all this other stuff, but I was putting out, kind of dripping out the dweeb stuff separate, like the music videos Travis worked on, all this other stuff, and I do want to say we are continuing to get comments on that, and people, I want to thank you for that. If you're watching, like, people are still commenting and enjoying those music videos, and more of those are to come. I just kind of dragged my feet, sorry about the pandemic, but I want to get more of that stuff out, and I think there's going to be. I'm excited for what next year will bring for the channel. I'm going to continue to stream. Travis has his time machine and just jumps in randomly and does this thing. And
I haven't done something in a hot minute, but hey, to say this, we've done how many?
This is the 50th. This is the 50th podcast, by the way.
Is it the 50th?
Yeah,
we have officially done 50 podcasts, and I've taken my pants off more for a podcast than anything else in my entire life. And I've enjoyed every single one of them.
That's really cool. I didn't know this was our 50th.
Yeah. Well, time has flown by. And I think for me, I can go back and look at... I went back and watched our very first podcast, and we were sitting in the old apartment, Travis, and we had the TV up. And
I had my feet on an Xbox or something.
Yeah, we had our feet on a classic Xbox, and
people think that we're Sony fanboys. I don't know why, but
Yeah, I don't know why. I think it was Yino Cooney. What's it called? Yino, I forget the
Nino
name.
Cooney.
Nino
Yeah, it was
Cooney.
playing in the background.
Oh
and Zach
yeah.
had really long hair.
We used to play stuff in the background while we talked on a little TV.
Man,
We've
how
come a long
crazy is
way.
that? It
Come
really
along
has.
with
has.
50 podcast.
I've
It's fun.
enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a blast.
So expect more of that dweeb stuff. I'll be putting out next year. Got more of that coming, and definitely get some more of those figures. Those freaking I just told you Final Fantasy VII Remake, baby. I got more of those figures, so
Yeah.
more of those figure reviews and all that stuff. But I'm looking forward to 2021. Maybe it'll be a better year for humanity. We'll see.
All
Yeah,
right.
baby.
But thank you guys for watching. Have a safe and happy New Year's. And
Put your top 3 games of the year.
Yeah, I would love to know
yeah,
that.
put your top 3 in the comments. What did we miss? Is Last of Us Part 2 good? Tell us in the comments. I still don't know.
Yeah, I would love to know if it's worth it or not.
Yeah.
But
All
all
right.
right, guys.
Thank you.
See
Take
ya
care.
and Happy New Year. All right, that's it.
Hey, real fast, guys. What were your honorable mentions, each of you?
Mine was Spider-Man and
Yeah.
Half-Life Alex.
And then Zach, what were yours?
There were a bunch. I put Dreams, Persona.
Oh, that's right, Dreams.
Persona 5. Ghost of Tsushima. And
You
then
said Demon
and then
Souls.
Demon Souls, yeah.
I was aggregating ours just because I was curious what it would look like to like put them all together and
Yeah.
like assign points. So here's what I did. Let me do this. What I did was if you gave it your number 1 spot, it was worth 3 points for the group. If you gave it your number 2 spot, it was worth 2, and if you gave it your 3 spot, it was worth 1 point. And then if you did an honorable mention, I put it as 0.5.
Yeah.
And so if you do that, our list came out. Number 1, let me do it. Well, the honorable mentions don't really work because we didn't
No.
double up on any of them.
Mm-mm.
But our top 6 games were Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Bug Snacks was 5, Demon Souls was 4, Cyberpunk was 3, Final Fantasy was 2, and then Last of Us was 1.
Yeah.
That's the definitive DweeBros list.
That's if you were gonna do a list for Dweebo,
Yeah.
that would be the list.
For the DweeBros, that's the list. Fun.
Bug Snacks,
Fucking
yeah.
Call of Duty's on a list.
Call of Duty's on the list.